Hello, this is your host, Adam Graham, from Pretty Much the Present. And in this video, we'll be bringing you a compilation of old-time radio detective podcasts from 2010. The podcasts are appearing, for the most part, unedited, except for some extraneous or repetitive elements that are being removed because this is a compilation. As I said, these are old, so any websites or offers mentioned may not be valid at the time you're listening unless you find them on our website currently. Now, with that said, here is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have any comments, email them to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Please cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And remember to follow the show on Twitter at Radio Detectives. I hope everybody enjoyed the Maltese Falcon. Because I'm actually recording 8 days before, I'm just starting to get comments regarding the movie. Lori Holt says, sorry, but I just love this old stuff. And she also had said she just loves the old radio podcast. And Jennifer Molding says, don't apologize, Linda. I love the first podcast movie, Sherlock Holmes. It's refreshing to watch old black and white movies as they were first screened. I hate the colorized movies. The late Mr. Jimmy Stewart would definitely agree with you. He was such a crusader against colorizing old black and white movies that he testified before Congress on it. I have to say, there really can be a certain beauty and an art about the black and white movies if they are preserved right and reproduced right. I saw one great example of this is the Voice of Terror, the first of the Universal Sherlock Holmes films. And the colorization, it looked just so not the colorization, but the black and white. They just preserved it so well, and it looked so well. Some of the prints we're going to have to deal with for our shows are not in as good a shape, but still, it's nice to see the black and white. Well, we're going to get into today's episode of Box 13. This one's called The Professor and the Puzzle. Before we do that, though, I do want to let you know about a product I found very useful. It's my Roku. A Roku is a great device that you're able to use with an internet connection to bring the best of the internet to your television. I've talked about how it can work great for Netflix. You can also purchase digital movies off of Amazon and be able to watch them right on your television with the Roku. You can use it with your Flickr account, also with MLB TV. I encourage you to check out a Roku. Try it for yourself. It starts at as little as $80. Go to greatdetectives.net, click on the Roku link, or go to roku.greatdetectives.net. But now let's get into today's episode of Box 13.
Box 13, with the star of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd, as Dan Holliday.
Dear Dan, I know all about your Box 13 ad in the Star Times, but I'm writing to you as a friend to come and see me. As you know, I'm teaching at Riddell College, not too far from where you are. Frankly, I've got a problem. I don't know whether it's anything you get excited about.
Excited about it or not? Matter of fact, it's sort of personal. But, well, will you come to see me? Bob Lanham. Yeah, it was a personal problem, all right, at first. Then the whole thing got tangled around. Up to my neck.
And now, back to Box 13 and Dan Holliday's newest adventure, The Professor and the Puzzle.
Maybe it'll be a kind of a vacation for you, Mr. Holliday.
Could be, Susie, but somehow I have a habit of running into trouble, or it runs into me.
Well, why don't you be careful then?
Oh, now, who has fun that way?
Remember that old saying, never trouble until it... Oh, no, that's wrong. It's never trouble until... No, it's...
Tell you what, Susie. You keep working on it. I'll be back in, say a week. Prodigal College in the northern part of the state was one of those little places where classes are more important than football, and education is still the prime reason for the buildings being there. I drove to the campus, found the teachers' club where Bob stayed. He was a bachelor. And later at dinner...
I don't know, Dan. Maybe all this is silly, but... Well, I thought perhaps you could help.
Well, I can't unless I know what's troubling you.
Well, I was engaged to be married.
Was? Who changed whose mind?
Evelyn. I mean, she changed hers.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bob. What happened?
Well, I don't know, Dan. Everything was fine for a while, and then, poof, it's all off.
And you don't know why?
No.
Well, did you say something? Do anything?
Not that I know of, but...
But what, Bob?
Listen, let's forget it. I almost sent you a wire telling you to forget my letter.
But you didn't. Which means you've got something else on your mind. Want to spill it?
All right. But don't let Evelyn know I told you.
Well, of course not.
Well, everything was fine, as I said, until her uncle committed suicide.
Suicide? Oh, I'm sorry, Bob.
Now she's going to marry Ed Macklin.
Oh, now, wait a minute. Her uncle killed himself, and that makes her break her engagement with you and tie up with this Macklin.
Doesn't make much sense, does it?
Not enough to do much good. That all you know?
Yes. Just a day or so before he died, Evelyn sent back my ring.
Just like that, huh?
Oh, there was a note, but it wasn't an explanation. Just that she thought it wouldn't work.
No hint of that before Uncle's death?
None, Dan. Absolutely none. That's what's got me stumped. But I could understand it if it wasn't Ed Macklin. He's lots older than she is. Why, it was a kind of a joke between us that he...
Who is Ed Macklin?
Well, he was her uncle's assistant.
Assistant?
I'm making this as clear as a mud puddle. But Evelyn's uncle, Professor Gardner, was professor of mineralogy. Macklin was his laboratory assistant.
Oh.
And that's all I know.
You sure?
Well, of course.
All right, now the $64 question. Why did Professor Gardner kill himself?
Dan, believe me when I tell you he didn't have a reason in the world. Not a single reason.
Well, that made as much sense as double talk from Alice in Wonderland. Bob stuck to it, too. The Professor Gardner didn't have a reason to kill himself. Evelyn, it seemed, had been raised by him. He was like a father to her. He was respected, well-liked, famous in a small way for his pamphlets and articles. And I got an explanation of his specialty later from Bob in his rooms.
He was a crystallographer, Dan. That means he studied the crystallization of minerals. You see, each mineral has its own particular crystalline formation. Salt, for example, that's common table salt, crystallizes in a particular way. Galena, we used to call it the crystal in the old radio sets, you remember? That has another form of crystallization. Well, Professor Gardner was an expert.
Well, was he working too hard?
I don't think so. It was never work for him.
Oh, I see. Well, what do I do now?
I don't know. I thought maybe you could... Well, I guess it's hopeless.
Look, Bob, is it certain that Professor Gardner killed himself?
What do you mean?
Well, you said there was no reason for suicide.
There wasn't.
Would anyone have wanted to kill him?
No.
You're sure, Bob?
I said no. Everybody liked him.
Maybe somebody didn't.
I didn't know of anyone.
And suddenly Evelyn breaks off her engagement with you just after...
Oh, look, Dan, I'm sorry I got you up here. I guess I was stupid to write to you. Go back and forget the whole thing.
You're afraid Evelyn's involved.
I'm not.
That's what's in the back of your mind, but you're afraid to say so.
I said I'm not.
Okay, Bob. Still want me to go back? Well?
No. Now you find out what you can, Dan. Without getting anyone in trouble.
Trouble has a bad habit of popping up.
I don't want it to.
But you still want me to stay?
I guess so.
All right. But get this straight, Bob. I am not a detective.
What do you mean by that?
If I find anything fishy about this, I'll have to call the police.
They've already been in.
All right. I'll start from here. For the rest of the evening, we sat and talked. Bob was nervous. He wanted me to help because he was in love with Evelyn. But he didn't want me to help because he was afraid of what might turn up. Well, what could turn up? I found out. It was the next morning that I put in a call to Lieutenant Kling. Waited a half hour. Then ambled down to the local police department of Riddell.
Oh, yes, Mr. Holliday. Lieutenant Kling called here. Told me about you.
I asked him to,
Name's Carson. I'm chief of police here.
Yes, I know.
What can I do for you, son?
Well, if I'm butting in where I don't belong, just say so, will you?
Can't tell that till you spit out what's on your mind.
Chief Carson leaned back, lighted a corncob pipe, and waited for me to start talking. I liked him. Behind that pink face was a good, shrewd mind. I told him I had come to Riddell, and when I'd finished...
Uh-huh. You ain't a detective.
No, not even a private one.
Just helping a friend, eh?
That's all.
Well, can't say as I can tell you any more than Bob Lanham did.
You sure?
Yep. Found Professor Gardner in his laboratory.
Oh, at the college?
No, he had a little workshop back of his house. He was sitting at his table there, his own gun in his hand. Shot himself through the heart.
Oh?
Something sound odd to you, son?
Yes, a man doesn't usually kill himself that way.
That's right. Usually in the head.
But that's the way it was, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, are you satisfied with the case, Chief Carson?
Gotta be, son.
Which means you're not.
Now, look here, son. I'm only a small-town policeman, but I do my work the best I can.
Yes, I know. And the thing that's puzzling you is, why should Professor Gardner have killed himself?
Uh-huh. Or, if he didn't, who else would have?
And there's no one else.
Nobody stood to gain nothing. Wasn't a rich man. His niece? Nope, I'm sure she didn't.
What about Ed Macklin?
Nothing to gain. Got it marked down as suicide, son. Just as dead end as a blind rabbit burrow.
And so it was. A dead end. I didn't press Chief Carson any further. He was shrewd enough to look for clues, and there just weren't any. I went back to Bob's rooms and stopped outside the door. It sounded as though a square dance were going on, with hot music. I opened the door fast. All right, break it up. Come on, break it up. Bob, stop. Bob, get back now.
Try it again, Lanham, and I'll turn it.
Dan, get out of the way.
Now, cut it out.
Oh, let him come on.
Get out of here, Macklin.
For now, sure. But try to see Evelyn once more, and I'll beat your head in, that's all.
He's a little bigger than you are, Bob. All around.
I'll kill him.
Now, take it easy. What happened?
Well, I tried to see Evelyn this afternoon. She wouldn't talk to me. Macklin came in a couple of minutes ago, and... Well, you saw what was happening.
Yeah, I did. It's a nice eye you've got there.
Shut up.
Oh, now, look, remember me?
I'm sorry, Dan.
Okay. So that's Macklin.
Uh-huh.
Sit down, Bob.
I don't want to sit down.
Sit down.
All right.
Now, that's better. Now, how far do you think you're going to get by running into his fist?
Now, listen, Dan, I've got to see Evelyn. I've got to find out what's going on.
All right, maybe we will. Why is Macklin afraid to let you talk to Evelyn?
I don't know, Dan.
I take it he's, well, to use an old-fashioned word, a rival.
I never thought so. But then,
just before her uncle's suicide, she suddenly switches to Macklin.
But why? Why should she?
If we find the answer to that, Bob, we'll find out a lot of things. Now, let's get a side of beef and fix up that eye. You're going to look pretty silly teaching class tomorrow with a shiner. But he didn't look silly in class. You see, he never got there. The next morning, I was pulled out of a nice deep sleep by... nobody home. Oh. Hello.
Dan?
Yeah, sure. Bob?
Yeah. Dan, I'm in trouble.
Great. How could you get in trouble at 6 in the morning? That's too early.
It's not a joke, Dan. I'm in jail.
Huh? For what?
For killing Ed Macklin.
Of course I didn't kill him.
I believe you, but look, haven't you got any alibi at all for last night?
No. When you left me, I went for a walk to think things over.
Oh, fine. Everybody goes for walks when somebody gets killed. What time was Macklin killed?
Just about the time I was out for that walk.
Morning, Holiday. Nice day.
Oh, hello, Chief.
You want some breakfast, son?
No, nothing.
Well, you got to eat, son. Got some ham and eggs.
Nothing, I said.
Bring it, Chief. He'll eat it.
Uh-huh. You want anything?
Meaning me?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, not at all. Looks bad, don't it?
Yeah. Why did you arrest Bob?
Well, you ought to know, son. You saw the fight they was having. One of the teachers living next door to Bob here heard it. And...
Oh?
Yeah.
Well, looks like you've got a motive, Chief.
Uh-huh. Macklin takes his girl. They get in a fight.
I didn't kill him.
Now, I want to believe that, but...
Chief, I'd like to talk to Bob if I can.
Huh? Oh. All right, I'll get the ham and eggs. Be back in maybe 10 minutes.
Don't you believe me, Dan?
Oh, of course I do, Bob. Look, how was Macklin killed?
Knife. His own.
Uh-huh. Now, listen, I got to see Evelyn.
What for?
Because I believe everything goes back to her uncle and his death.
How?
I don't know. I'd like to find out.
Well, nothing makes sense. Nobody had a motive for killing Professor Gardner.
And everyone says he couldn't have killed himself because he didn't have a reason.
So what have you got?
What have I got? Bob, I haven't the faintest idea. Yet.
And now back to The Professor and the Puzzle, another Box 13 adventure with Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
I didn't have a thing. Not a thing to go on. Bob was in a spot, but a good one. He had motive, opportunity. Yet I didn't think he'd kill. I believed he couldn't. And I kept thinking that Professor Gardner's suicide had something to do with Macklin's murder. But how? A harmless professor kills himself. His niece suddenly breaks off her engagement and switches to another man, and that man is killed, and who gets the brass ring on this merry-go-round? Well, it was about time to see Miss Evelyn Gardner. I found the address, drove there, and... No one answered the door, but I heard someone in the back. So I walked around the side of the house, and putting some papers into an incinerator was a girl of maybe 24, 25. She seemed to be in a hurry, anxious to get it over with. Then she turned when she heard my steps.
Oh. Who are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Dan Holliday.
Oh, yes, I've heard Bob speak of you.
Oh, go ahead. Finish what you were doing.
Well, I haven't got a match. I wanted to burn this rubbish.
Oh. Here's a match. I'll light it for you.
Oh, no, I can do it.
Oh, it's no trouble.
I said I'd do it.
Well, all right. Here's the match.
Thank you.
Whatever she was burning, she was anxious to get it over with. But she was a little nervous, and the match went out.
Oh, please, have you another match?
No, I'm sorry. I'm afraid that was the last one I had.
Well, I'll have to get some. Will you come into the house?
Oh, thank you.
Did Bob come with you, Mr. Holliday?
Bob? Haven't you heard?
Heard? Heard what?
No one's told you?
Told me what? What are you talking about?
Bob's been arrested for the murder of Ed Macklin.
Oh, no. No, he didn't.
How do you know?
Oh, we've got to see him.
That might help, but how can you be sure Bob didn't do it?
Oh, he couldn't have.
Then who did?
I don't know. I don't know, but it wasn't Bob.
It has something to do with your uncle's death, doesn't it?
No, nothing. How could there be a connection?
I'm asking you.
I'm going to Bob. I've got to see him.
She was gone. I watched it drive away, then I hurried back to the incinerator. It was stuffed with papers. I dragged them out. Newspapers, wrapping paper, and then a little sheaf of receipts. Registered mail receipts for parcel post packages. And the signature of the sender was M.A. Gardner. Professor Martin A. Gardner. Now, why was Evelyn burning these? I looked a little longer and found something else. A carbon copy of a letter. It was partially torn, and all I could read of it was, "And this is the last job. Because it's the biggest, I want more than my usual fee. If I don't get it, you'll never get the finished products." And it was signed with the initials M.A.G. Martin A. Gardner. Okay, so I had a lead. But where would it get me? I found out. I didn't go back to the jail because I wanted to look a little longer at those papers I'd found. There was also a bank book, and the deposits totaled over $12,000. But it was in the name of Samuel Stoner. And the bank was in the city, not in Riddell. Back in my hotel, I was trying to figure this out when...
Hello.
You know, that thing's liable to go off.
Yeah, it could. Mind if I sit down?
I wasn't expecting company.
I'll sit down anyway.
Okay. Now that you're rested, goodbye.
In a hurry?
That's right.
Not so fast, sweetheart. Stay sitting. That's better.
What do you want?
What you've got right there.
These?
That's right. Push them across the table. Keep your hands on top.
Scared?
Not at all. Now, light a fire in that grate.
It's awfully warm, don't you think?
It could get hotter. Go ahead. Light a fire in that grate and step on it.
Oh, we're going to toast marshmallows, are we?
Could be. Now, put some paper on it.
Oh, pardon me. You don't have a log with you, do you?
I'll bring one the next time. Now, throw that stuff on the fire. All of it.
But I haven't looked it over yet.
Throw it on.
Well, what could I do? I threw all the stuff on the fire, watched it burn away. My company did, too. Watched it burn, I mean. He was a cool cookie. Then...
Pretty, isn't it? I used to sit in front of a fireplace and read when I was a kid.
But you didn't get to be president.
No, that's true. Poke it up a little. See that it's all burned.
It is?
Good. Now I'm going.
Oh, I was hoping you'd stay for dinner. We could put up a spit and roast a chicken.
Oh, I almost forgot. You're to stop nosing around.
Well, I guess I have to, with that stuff burned.
That was the idea.
Yes, I suppose you'd have killed me as you killed Macklin. A shot in the dark, but it hit. His face, not so bad before, got twisted up. His fingers tightened on the trigger of his gun, but then he smiled.
You'll have to prove it. And something tells me you'll never see me again. So long.
Okay. Maybe the things were burned, but I remember one thing. An address. The address on the registered mail receipts where Gardner had sent the packages. And there was the name Samuel Stoner. Something told me Stoner and Gardner were the same and that bank account was his. But why? Why was he paid that much money? What was he doing? Well, there was only one way to find out. Go into the city and go to the address written on those receipts. I drove into the city. The address was an office building. And there were 50 firms doing business in that building. I looked at the directory in the lobby. No good. How could I visit 50 places and get right answers? Then I saw him. The man who made me burn the papers. He went into the building. He didn't see me. I tailed him. Watched him get into an elevator. I got close enough to hear him say,
7, please.
7th floor. There were other people in the elevator. Chances are I'd make a lot of stops before it got to 7. Okay, the steps for holiday. it. If I'd made it, then. He went into an office that had no name on the door. I waited, and then... It was an outer office with no one in it.
What about it?
Then I heard voices.
Are we clear?
Macklin's dead.
You killed him, I suppose.
Uh-huh. But it looks like someone else did. It was a perfect setup for a frame.
Oh, the niece business, huh?
Yeah. Oh, and there was another guy nosing around. He picked up some stuff the girl was going to burn.
Who was he? Why didn't you...
Look, 2 bump-offs are enough. I only signed for the gardener job.
All right. Here's your money.
Now that I know what the gimmick was, I want more.
Oh?
Yeah. Don't reach for anything.
All right, I'll cut you in on this.
That's better.
Wait a minute. This other fella.
Don't worry. I made him burn the stuff he took from the incinerator.
You idiot, you should have...
I told you killing Macklin wasn't in on the deal. But he had this. I had to kill him to get it.
You sure you're clean on the gardener thing?
I know I am. I killed him with his own gun while the machines in that shop were running. Nobody heard the shot. Suicide.
All right, now get out of here.
I'm taking this with me.
Put that down.
Don't worry. We'll split on it. I just want to make sure there's no double cross. Now, see you later.
I stepped back, waited. Then as he came through the door, I knocked the gun out of his hand and grabbed it. Stay where you are.
What the... Well, so you were followed.
Shut up. I'll take what you brought back.
No.
Hand it over, Cookie. Come on. Well. Okay, let's all take a trip to headquarters. Well, with those 2 sweethearts safely tucked away, I began to put the pieces together. I did some reading, then I went back to Riddell. Went back to see Bob.
Dan, where you been?
Playing tag with a man, Bob.
Got a phone call, Holiday, from the city.
You're letting me out?
I think they are.
Yep. No more free meals on the town, Bob. Come on.
But Dan, what happened?
We've got to go see Evelyn right away. And straighten out a few things. Now, sit down. Both of you. Evelyn?
Yes?
I think I know the whole thing.
Yes, I guess you do.
What's everyone talking about? Why was I let out of jail?
Because you didn't kill Macklin. And Professor Gardner didn't commit suicide.
He didn't? Well, how do you know?
He was killed. Look, Evelyn, Bob would have been convicted of Macklin's murder if I hadn't... Well, Bob, Professor Gardner was doing illicit diamond cutting.
What?
Yes, he had a perfect setup for it. The shop where he worked cutting and polishing his mineral specimens. The stolen diamonds were sent to him. He recut and polished them so they could be offered for sale. Isn't that right, Evelyn?
Yes.
But Macklin...
I think you'd better tell him, Evelyn.
Ed Macklin found out. Then my uncle was killed. And Macklin knew why.
You mean he threatened to expose your uncle if you didn't marry him?
Yes. He wasn't sure until after Uncle Martin was killed.
Killed by a hired killer. Hired by the man who was sending the diamonds to be recut. Professor Gardner was going to quit, but he received one last diamond. The biggest. He wanted more than his usual fee, or he would keep the diamond.
But Evelyn, how does she come into it?
Well, naturally, Evelyn wanted to protect her uncle's name, but Macklin's death prevented it. You see, Macklin found the big stone, and he was killed because he did.
Welcome back, Mr. Holliday. Did you have a nice vacation?
Susie, it was just as if I'd never been away.
Huh? You mean you didn't take a vacation at all?
Well, not exactly, Susie.
Oh. You mean it was like a typical holiday?
What?
I made a joke. Get it?
Oh. Good night, Susie.
Next week, same time, through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd stars as Dan Holliday in Box 13. Box 13 is directed by Richard Sandville with an original story by Russell Hughes. Original music is composed and conducted by Rudy Schrager. The part of Susie is played by Sylvia Picker. Production is supervised by Vern Karstensen. This is a Mayfair production from Hollywood. Watch for Alan Ladd in his latest Paramount picture.
Well, welcome back. Listening to Dan Holliday during the episode talk about I'm not a detective, some people might go, well, wait, how did you end up on this show, this podcast? I think the one thing, whether when I look at a detective series, I'm looking at for somebody who solves mysteries actively, and we're following this one person along in an adventure. And there were a lot of shows in the 1940s that had this very strong detective element. Box 13 is a show that could be viewed in a couple of different ways. If I'd opted to start the great adventure shows of old-time radio, it could have been featured there as well. But really, most episodes he deals with mysteries. So it's kind of funny when he claims not to be a detective. And I think in this case, he's thinking of detective as just a job title, and I tend to think of it as a bit more functional. So he's thinking, I'm not a detective, I just go around and solve a lot of mysteries. Oh, okay, Dan. And I did love Susie's pun at the end. I don't usually like them because they're just like little pronunciation mistakes, but this one was pretty clever. He didn't have a vacation, it was just a normal holiday. Love that. A listener identifying themselves as Old Time Radio writes in, Box 13 is a good old-time radio show. My favorite, though, is Sam Spade. I've definitely heard that quite a bit. That's probably one of the more requested shows we get. And I'm leaning towards doing that. And it's really listener feedback that I think has really pushed in that direction. Well, we begin a new series in just a moment with Jeff Regan. Before I do that, I do want to let you know I added another feature to the website. If you go under the About page, you'll see something I call the big list of detective old-time radio shows. I get a lot of requests for shows. I thought I would go ahead and put out a list including those shows that I would like to do, those shows that I'm really not going to do, which is a pretty small list, and those that I really need to listen more to before I make a decision. So that is available over at greatdetectives.net. Well, now we're getting into Jeff Regan. And because Jack Webb played the lead in both Regan as well as the Novak Madero series, it's pretty tempting to just go ahead and lump them all in. But if Johnny Madero and Pat Novak were clones, and Pete Kelly was their blues playing uncle from Kansas City, well, Jeff Regan's not even in that same family. He is a professional investigator. In some ways, I think he's kind of a poor man's Philip Marlowe. Like Marlowe, he's actually been to a little bit of college, and he's literally a poor man's Philip Marlowe when you calculate out the wage. Marlowe charges $25 a day plus expenses. Regan charges $10 a day plus expenses. And that adds up to, by the way, the $10 adds up to about $95 in 2009 dollars. So that means that if we were figuring for today, Regan would be earning less than $12 an hour. So definitely a working staff. And what adds to this and makes it unique from other private investigator shows is that the lead character is an employee. In most PI shows, whether it's Richard Diamond or Sam Spade, they're either on their own or they're the boss of one other person. What Regan as an employee makes this kind of unique And you're about to hear, his boss pretty well serves as a foil for Regan. So this is going to be pretty interesting. By the way, in terms of actual private investigators, most private investigators have more in common with Jeff Regan than they will any of the other private detectives, because about 70% of them work for other people. All right, well, we're going to get into today's show in just a moment. Before we do, I do want to remind you, this episode does include a trip. And if you're planning a trip, remember this name, Johnny Dollar Air. Johnny Dollar Air is Priceline, which has helped to revolutionize travel by offering consumers control, allowing them to name their own price or to choose from published fares. With Priceline, you'll be able to search and to find the best deal using the negotiator, or as I said, pick from any published fare on hotels, airline tickets, cruises, and even more. So just remember, JohnnyDollarAir.com. Now we're going to get into this episode of Jeff Regan. This one is the first one we have in existence. It's called The Prodigal Daughter. So we'll listen and then we'll come back.
My name's Jeff Regan. I'm the Lyon's eye, his private eye. I work for Anthony J. Lyon, head of the International Detective Bureau. He doesn't care where the money comes from, just so long as it comes to him. He cashes in on trouble, and for him it pays off. For me, it's work.
Here's the kind of adventure you've been waiting to hear. Hard-boiled action and mystery with radio's most exciting private detective, Jeff Regan. So stand by for trouble and suspense in tonight's story of The Prodigal Daughter. And now, here's Jack Webb as Jeff Regan.
This is the way it started. Melody was sitting in the outer office wearing her horn-rimmed glasses. That told me that the client was in with a lion. I smiled at her, and she blinked back, rolled her eyes toward the lion's den.
He's polite today.
Yeah, I know. On the phone, I was Jeffrey.
No.
I wish I knew, Melody. Buzz me in, will you?
Yes, Melody.
Mr. Regan's here now, Mr. Lyon.
Oh, well, send him in. Send him in. We're waiting.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Ah, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, my boy. My boy, come in, come in. There's someone here I want you to meet. Now then, Jeffrey. Mr. Carter, this is Mr. Jeffrey Regan, one of my very best men. Jeffrey, this is Mr. Daniel Carter.
How do you do?
How do you do, Mr. Regan? Mr. Lyon has assured me that you're a discreet young man.
Well, I
always...
always...
Full of discreetness, Mr. Carter. International Detective Bureau is ethically bound to employ sympathetic, understanding personnel, as well as alert, productive operators.
I hope that's true, Mr. Lyon. In my publishing business, I never had the occasion to settle my trust on any one person.
Very delicate situation, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead, Mr. Carter. Everything said in this room is in the strictest confidence.
Well, I want you to know that it wasn't easy for me to come here. It's admitting defeat in a way. Patrice is my daughter. 5 years ago, she walked out. Oh, I can understand in a way. When her mother died, I started sending her away to schools. I was no companion for her.
Have you heard from her at all? Do you know where she is?
I've never heard from her, Mr. Regan, since she left. I don't know where she is. But I want her back, Mr. Regan.
I can see how you feel.
International is in business to make people happy.
Now, I've offered Mr. Lyon a $2,000 fee if he can find my daughter.
$2,000. It figures.
Now, you can trust International to find your daughter and bring her back.
Well, then I guess that's all, Mr. Regan. I'll go now. You'll let me know as soon as you find anything?
Of course, of course.
Then good day, gentlemen.
Trust International, Mr. Carter. Good day. Here's your ticket. You leave on the Sunset Limited at 1:45 today.
I do?
You're going to New Orleans to pick up that dame and bring her back. She was 19 when she left home, and any dame who's 19 has a boyfriend next door. I found out that much in 2 phone calls. The boyfriend hasn't heard from her in over a year. But that means she's got another boyfriend down there. Here's the New Orleans address.
You knew all this?
Here's a picture of her. She's just been staying away from the old man. This is going to be a nice piece of change. $2,000 for bringing her back, plus expenses.
How do you know she'll come back with me? She walked out all alone. That means she wants to be all alone.
Maybe we could make another 1,000 if some nosy newspaper guy just happens to get tipped and wants money to keep quiet.
Oh, you're crawling with ethics, aren't you?
Melody will give you some traveler's checks.
Sympathetic, understanding.
Better pack some things before you miss your train.
Just in business to make people happy.
I want to be happy, too. Beat it. Call me if you run into any trouble.
Cotton boys are here for just one thing out there.
Well, they serve the most delicious oysters, and Charlie had to go racing.
2 days later in New Orleans at the Roosevelt Hotel, home of the original Ramus Gin Fizz, I figured it would take a lot of fizz to pull away that southern heat, but everybody in the lobby seemed cool enough in linens, tropicals, and seersuckers, except me and a big, perspiring man leaning against the CNS ticket counter. He smiled when he saw me and came across the lobby holding out his hand.
Well, I'm certainly glad to see you. We thought you'd never get here. Nice trip?
Was all right.
Say, the rest of the boys are headquartered in 810. They're mighty anxious to meet you.
They are?
Mighty anxious. Delta cotton growers are going to make it or break it at this convention. Now, I want to...
He was talking real sincere and bent over to make a gesture. The accent was phony, but the bulge inside his double-breasted gabardine coat was real enough that it was a .38 automatic.
I say, I'll take you up right now.
Why don't I meet you up there later, huh?
Well, all right, if you'd rather. That's room 810. I'll go out and get a bite and meet you.
You do that. About an hour. Clerk.
Yes, Mr. Regan?
How long have the Delta cotton growers been in town?
The Delta cotton growers?
Uh-huh.
What, they had their convention last May.
Last May?
Yes, sir.
Who's registered in room 810?
Well, we have no 810, Mr. Regan.
That's what I thought. Thanks. What do you do with a big man, a phony accent, .38 automatic, and no Delta Cotton Growers convention? You tell me. 2 hours later, in a fresh shirt and a wrinkled suit, I was still working on that one as I climbed the stairs to the Ursuline Street address where Patrice Carter lived. It was one of those dirty, unpainted apartment houses in the French Quarter, full of heat and low-watt light bulbs. The girl who opened the door was tall, black-haired, wore a black dress. The picture Lyon had given me of Patrice Carter was a blonde.
Yes?
My name's Regan. I wonder if I could see Patrice Carter.
Patrice, you're a friend of hers?
Yeah, I'm from Los Angeles.
How do you do, Mr. Regan? I'm Janice King, Patrice's roommate. Please come in.
All right.
Right this way.
Maybe it was because the 2 big rooms I followed her through were dimly lit, or maybe it was the sweet, sick smell of flowers. I don't know, but perspiration began to trickle down my back, and I braced myself when Janice King opened another door.
Here you are, Mr. Regan.
She was young and lovely and blonde, with a burning candle at her head and feet, lying in state, very dead. Patrice Carter. I just stood there in that dark room, and I looked down at her. I think there were other people in the room feeling the same as me and thinking the same thoughts. I must have stayed that way for 5 minutes. Then I felt Janice King touch my arm.
Did you know Patrice very long?
No, I didn't know.
She asked to have it this way. I know how you must feel, being a friend, Mr. Regan.
Look, Miss King, I didn't know her at all, and I didn't know that she was passed away. I'm a private investigator. I was hired by Daniel Carter to locate his daughter.
Daniel Carter.
You knew that she had a father.
Yes, Mr. Regan, I knew. She told me about him. She told me everything. Oh, you aren't the first one who's been here looking for her. There have been others, detectives and lawyers trying to get her to go back.
Carter knew she was here?
If he'd loved her for just one unselfish moment, she'd never have left him. Well, Mr. Regan, she's where he can't bother her anymore. She's where he can't ever see her. Tell him that when you go back. Tell him she's going to be buried tomorrow. Tell him he can stop hiring lawyers and detectives to find her. Why don't you take him a copy of her death certificate? That ought to satisfy him. No, get out! Get out!
Well, the whole thing had looked too easy right from the beginning. I took her advice and I went down to the morgue to get the dope on Patrice Carter's death. There was one white coat there, a little man with a bald head who introduced himself as Oliver Fig.
So you're from Los Angeles. So how are things in Los Angeles? What'd you say your name was?
Regan, International Detective Bureau. Came here to locate a girl named Patrice Carter. I just came from her apartment.
Mm-hmm. And she's dead.
Yeah, I know. How?
Might have wiggled herself to death. Did a dandy strip number at Joe Glorioso's joint.
Stripper?
Yeah, you got him in Los Angeles, ain't you? Seen that Carter dame lots of times. Great.
Well, I thought maybe you could give me a copy of the death certificate. I got to take something back with me.
Sure. Glad to do it. Oh, she was a real girl. Shame, dirty shame. So how's things in Los Angeles? Let's see. Blanky. No, not the same guy. Blacker. Homicide? They fished him out of the river. Mississippi mud. Get it?
Got it.
So, how are things in Los Angeles? Here you are. Carter. Patrice Carter. 731 Ursuline. Mm-hmm. Coroner's report referred to Dr. Emmett Swazi. Here you are. Dame died 3 days ago of leukemia.
Let me see that.
Sure.
Leukemia? Then she knew.
Sure. You get tipped plenty in advance on leukemia. Any doctor will tell you almost to the day.
Nothing else?
Was there something fishy about it? Nah, all kosher. So how's things in Los Angeles?
Any relatives?
None listed.
Well, that's it, I guess. Can I have a copy of it?
Sure. Take that one. We got plenty more. Lots of people want death certificates for legal reasons. I once knew a guy who saved them like cigar bands or stamps. One whole wall of his bedroom papered with nothing but death certificates. Imagine, all homicides. So how's things in Los Angeles?
Yeah, this is fine, Oliver.
See you around. Glad to hear things are better in Los Angeles.
Well, there wasn't anything more to do after that but go back to the hotel and try to get a reservation out of town. When I asked for my key, the clerk passed me 3 printed messages telling me that a Mr. Lyon of Los Angeles had been calling. When I got to my room, he called again.
Regan, is that you? Where you been?
Keep your shirt on.
Come on, tell me. Did you see her?
Yeah, I saw her.
What'd you say? She gonna play ball? How soon you coming back?
She didn't say anything, and we aren't coming back.
What do you mean?
She's dead.
What?
D-E-A-D. Dead.
She can't do that.
It happened 3 days ago. Leukemia.
Now, wait a minute. Old man Carter's paying us $2,000 to bring her back.
They're going to bury her tomorrow morning, and they don't want any interference. She was laid out. Her roommate laced me up and down for working for the old man. Name of Janice King. Good-looking brunette.
I told Carter we'd bring back his daughter, and we will. There's $2,000 in this, and you know how I feel about money.
Yeah, I know.
So get busy.
Now, look. I've done a lot of dirty, rotten things for you, but he's an old man, and he's sick, and I'm...
And he doesn't wear dark glasses because it's a sunny day. He's almost blind. Now go on over and get that roommate and bring her back. He'd never know the difference.
I won't do it.
Offer her $500 to come here and pose as Patrice Carter for a week. and she could take a powder.
I won't do it.
I'm calling Carter first thing in the morning and telling him you found his daughter and that you're on your way back to Los Angeles.
I won't do it.
Let me take you away from all this. Come on, let's out now, Roger.
It was in the French Quarter. They served a thing called a Sazerac and promised a very good floor show at 1 o'clock. I sat there watching the piano player and feeling kind of sorry for myself. I figured I had more trouble than anybody else, so I had 3 for Regan. It was about then a tall redhead with a long cigarette holder eased off her stool at the other end of the bar, patted a bald-headed guy on the head, and came over my way. She gave me time enough to get a whiff of her perfume and then leaned into me.
Jane?
Mm-hmm.
Me too. I'm the new headliner. I'm going to dance pretty soon. You ain't antisocial, are you, mister?
No, Red. I'm just lonesome for home.
Where's that?
Los Angeles.
Hey, that's a good town.
And what are you doing here?
Work. I'm the new stripper.
Oh, yeah, you told me.
That's a tough racket. Pick 'em up and put 'em down, put 'em on, take 'em off. 10 years now.
Is that right? How about drink?
No, never when I'm working. Later, maybe?
Maybe.
Are you sure you ain't antisocial? I look all right, don't I? I mean, I ain't threatened.
Come here.
Let go.
No hard feelings, Red. I just want to see your face.
You crazy or something?
Come on, stand still now in the light.
What's the matter? Something wrong with me?
No, not a thing, baby. You're just fine. How long did you say you've been dancing?
I've been dancing 10 years. Let go.
Oh, hold still. That makeup. You wear it all the time?
Have to in my business.
All right.
You had me scared there for a minute. You oughtn't to grab hold of a girl like that.
Red, you mind if I ask you a personal question?
Well, now, wait a minute. I just met you.
No, it's about your face.
What's the matter with my face?
Well, it's beautiful.
Oh. Oh, sure, go ahead.
That grease paint and makeup. Using it heavy like that for a long time, it's hard to get off, huh?
Oh, can't ever get all of it off, mister. When you've been in the business as long as I have, always going to have some of it on.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Is that what you wanted to ask me?
Well, that's it.
Well, you can get more personal than that. You're a little screwy, but I like you.
And I like you, Red. Thanks.
Hey, where you going? What about the drink after my number?
Rain check me, Red. I got things to do. I had to go back to Janice King's apartment. It was a sticky, sick kind of New Orleans night. From one lighted street, I turned off on Ursuline, a darker, dirtier street. I stopped, right in the middle of the block. All kinds of people have followed me at one time or another, and I've followed all kinds of people. But this had a professional feel to it. I stood there, listening, remembering my automatic and my suitcase back at the hotel. It only took him a second. He was a professional, all right. All I could see was well-pressed gabardine, 2 arms, and a hand-painted tie. The next thing was a gun butt carefully wrapped in a white linen handkerchief. Settled slowly against the side of my head. One of the well-pressed arms reached over and held me under the shoulders. I yelled at the top of my lungs, but there wasn't any noise. Regan of International was out as cold as a can of beer.
We'll return to Jeff Regan, investigator, in just a moment. An easy way to save for future security is by a payroll deduction for savings bonds. Or if you're not paid on a salary basis, you can purchase savings bonds at your nearest post office, bank, or Savings and Loan Association office. Now is the time to ask your employer to start deducting for savings bonds or to buy a bond on your own. If no other plan is feasible, your bank will deduct enough each month from your savings or checking account to buy a savings bond. For money in the future, buy United States savings bonds. You'll be glad you did. And now, back to the story of the prodigal daughter and Jeff Regan, investigator.
Honey, I declare you amaze me. When you look at that, isn't that awful? And him all dressed up like.
We won't pay any attention to him, honey.
The next thing I knew, a man in a straw hat and a polo shirt was kneeling down beside me, carefully smelling my breath.
Easy now, buddy, easy. You've been making whoopee. Yep, that Sazerac will do it every time.
Ooh.
You know, you folks visiting down here ought to be more careful. Get your suit all dirty?
It hit me on the side of the head.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes the side of the head, sometimes the back. No difference at all. Always wind up in the same place, on the street somewhere. Had enough for the night?
Yeah, plenty.
Mm-hmm. I'll take you to your hotel.
Huh?
That's my cab. I nearly ran over you. Your first trip?
Yeah.
Well, you know better next time.
Oh.
Easy now.
Did you see my friend? Big man, gabardine suit.
See nobody. Want to look for him?
Later.
Say, what you hunting for?
My wallet.
Somebody take it?
No, nothing's missing. Everything's right here.
Mm-hmm. Honest town.
Oh, yeah, you're so right.
Well, you feel better when you get back to your place.
Yeah, sure. It wasn't quite right. I didn't feel better until the next morning when I got a telegram and read, "Found out Carter's broke. Come back. Forget the whole thing. Lyon." And that was the first good news I'd had in 3 days.
Oh, it's you. What are you doing here? She's buried, gone.
Yeah, I know. I came back to see you.
Wait a minute. You can't come in here.
I just did.
What do you want now?
You. Yes, you. I was hired to come to New Orleans and bring Patrice Carter back to Los Angeles.
She's dead and buried, and you know it.
That's what you say. That's what a death certificate says. There's only one thing I learned lately. Don't believe what people say. Don't believe what death certificates say.
I don't know what you're trying to do, but
Oh, stop it, will you? I know you're Patrice Carter, and I know the girl who was buried yesterday was the real Janice King. And I know somebody's trying to make a monkey out of you and a monkey out of me. Now, listen to me. If I have to, I can have that body exhumed. I can go into fingerprints and birthmarks, and a lot of things, but I don't think I'll have to. You see, Patrice Carter wasn't the type to do a striptease for a living.
You're just trying to make something out of nothing. I'll call the police and have them arrested.
Last night, I ran into the redhead who took her place. She told me what a tough life it is. 10 years of wearing grease paint can be kind of rough on your skin. The dead girl I saw had those kind of marks. The girl I'm looking for couldn't have been in the business that long.
Why don't you leave me alone?
I don't know who talked you into a thing like this, but it's all wrong. He's an old man now. He's broke and lonely, and he wants to see you. I don't know what your differences are, but I want to take you back. What do you say?
He was so off. He hated. I know he did. I never want to see him again.
What's he been telling you, honey?
Oh, Tim. Oh, Tim, he knows everything.
He doesn't know anything. He'll never know anything.
This your boyfriend? He had a phony accent when he tried to shake me down in the hotel lobby.
Get out of here, Regan.
I played ball, and you had to quit trying. It all fits now. This guy's been holding your hand for the last year. He's been real sympathetic, hasn't he?
Get out before I throw you out.
He told you how to trade names with that poor kid who was dying of leukemia. He told you to send me to that morgue for a death certificate. And he dropped me in the gutter last night to make sure I had it. You know why?
Don't listen to this character. Baby's off his nut.
He's a private detective from Los Angeles who's been getting paid to make love to you.
No.
Regan, I told you to
Shut up! Oh, he was good at the side street work, but this was an apartment, and he didn't have enough room to move fast. I let him have the top of my head under his chin for a starter. And then I took a lot of feet in my face. But when he started to cross the carpet pulling for that 38, I saw my chance. She stood there and watched him go down.
It's not true. It's not true. You're just here to make more trouble for me. You're just here to make...
Am I? I thought I recognized the touch. Here's his wallet. Look for yourself. Here, catch. Timothy Conover, private investigation. Well? Oh, come on, kid. I'll take you back home.
You're back. How was New Orleans? Oh, I didn't know you had someone with you.
I'll see you later, Melody. The Lion in?
Yes, but I wouldn't go in. He's in a bad mood.
Uh-huh. What else? Come on, Pat.
Regan! So you finally got back, did you? I suppose you run an expense account to choke a horse. Well, let me tell you that it's all coming out of your salary. We didn't make a nickel on that Carter thing, and who's this?
Patrice Carter.
How do you do, Mr. Lyon?
I thought I told you to leave her down there, because that old schmo was giving us the runaround and hasn't got a nickel to his name. Besides, she's dead. Yes, she's dead.
That's right. Here's a death certificate to prove it. Now listen to me before you blow the rest of your cylinders. I went to a lot of trouble to bring this girl here.
Well, you can send her back where she came from, and I'll take her fare out of your salary.
On the plane coming back, Mr. Regan explained a great many things to me about myself and about you, Mr. Lyon.
Well, I wish you'd explain something to me.
When I was a baby, my father placed a trust in a large holding company under my name, $50,000. And I can claim it any time after my 21st birthday.
Yeah? How old are you now?
Old enough. Mr. Regan found out that much.
I made a phone call to Dun and Bradstreet, know a lot of things.
Go on.
Nothing more, Mr. Lyon, except I claimed that trust today. And I'll be glad to pay you the $2,000 fee that my father promised you.
Well, now, that's very generous of you, Miss Carter. The International Detective Bureau is proud to have had a small part in bringing you and your estranged father together.
I'm not going back to him, Mr. Lyon. I don't want to see you.
Now, my dear, you're upset.
Leave her alone, Lyon. Now, look. I tussled with a private detective named Conover down in New Orleans. He'd been hired by old man Carter to convince Pat that she should switch names with a burlesque girl who was dying of leukemia. Conover does a good job. When the girl dies, Conover wires Carter. Carter comes to you, you call me in and hustle me off to New Orleans, where, according to a perfect setup, I find a phony Patrice Carter dead. I bring back a death certificate, which you turn over to Carter, and then he walks right down and collects that trust fund, which reverts to the original maker only on death.
And him with that story about being old and lonely and wanting only to see his daughter. Telling me he'd pay me a $2,000 fee. Why, that dirty crook, he's no better than I am. He tried to make a sucker out of me.
He did. You fell for the whole thing.
Trust fund in your name. Well, young lady, you can sit right down here at my desk and make out your check. And then I think that as long as you're in town, you might just drop over and see your old father. International Detective Bureau is in business to make people happy.
That's all.
Use this pen.
Did everything come out all right?
Yeah, I guess so. She's writing a check. That's what he wants. Cigarette?
Yes.
Thank you.
Why do you do it, Jeff?
Hot in here, isn't it? The air feels good. Makes you clean. He doesn't care whether it's homicide or arson or a lost daughter or just people getting kicked around. He makes money on it. I help him.
You didn't answer me. Why do you do it?
I don't know, Melody. I don't know.
Remember, an easy way to save for the future is to buy United States savings bonds. You can buy bonds at your nearest post office, bank, or savings and loan association, or you can ask your employer to start deducting for a bond a month on the payroll savings plan. A bond a month is good security for the years to come. For money in the future, buy United States savings bonds now. You'll be glad you did. Jack Webb is featured as Jeff Regan, investigator, with Wilms Herbert as Anthony J. Lyon and Laurette Philbrandt as Melody. Tonight's cast included Betty Lou Gerson as Red, Lou Krugman as Conover, Theodore Von Eltz as Mr. Daniel Carter, Eve McVeigh as Patrice Carter, and Harry Lang as...
How's things in Los Angeles?
Remember, it's CBS same time next week for hard-boiled action and mystery with radio's most exciting private detective, Jeff Regan, as he tells the story of the Lonesome Lady. Jeff Regan, Investigator, is written by E. Jack Newman, produced and directed by Gordon P. Hughes, with original music by Del Castillo. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, that was a fantastic episode and a fantastic beginning to the series. There was so much that they had going on here. Music was phenomenal. I like the writing, the style that E. Jack Newman, the writer, he put into this. And the story was good as well. And you kind of get this picture of Jeff Regan as a good man working for a bad one. And that leads to a lot of conflict as Regan has to, in this episode, has to basically go in the other direction than the Lion was ordering. And you get a sense, too, in this early going, that the Lion is really rotten. Yeah, let's go ahead and bring back another woman and tell the blind guy that it's his daughter so he'll pay us off. Oh, this is going to be a quite interesting character. Well, I hope you'll be back with us the next, should be about 31 more weeks of Jeff Regan. So I hope you'll join us back next week for another episode of Jeff Regan. And we actually begin with a comment off of Facebook. This one's from August, and I mentioned yesterday I posted a list of shows, those that we're doing, a few that I don't want to do, and ones that I need to hear more episodes to make up my mind. August says that he would definitely recommend on that list Big Town and Casey Crime Photographer. And he says the latter would fit, especially fit with this podcast. Well, thanks for the suggestion, August, and that's helpful. I've got about 30 shows in that category. So when I get feedback, that definitely helps, so I can direct it to some of the more promising candidates. So I appreciate the feedback, and when I start listening to new detective shows, probably right after Easter, I'll have Casey at the top of the list, because I've gotten a couple people that think Casey would be worth a listen. It could be a while if I do decide to air it till we get to actually play Casey, but I will definitely take a listen. Thanks for that feedback. Well, we're going to get into today's episode. I'll let George do it in just a moment. Before we do, I do want to just remind you, important thing when it comes to preparing a website is that it's there, that it's reliable. I don't care whether it's for personal or for business. It's important that if you care enough about something to put it on the internet, that it be there and that you can rely on it. Well, and that you don't face artificial limits. That's why I use One-on-One as my web host. Through One-on-One, we have unlimited bandwidth, great reliability, no real serious problems in the times I've been with them. Really, compared to the other budget hosts out there, this has really been a pleasant surprise, and I think you'll enjoy it too. If you want to try one-on-one for yourself, just go to greatdetectives.net, click on the one-on-one banner, or go to hosting.greatdetectives.net, and they're running a special where you can get 50% off your first 6 months with a 30-day trial. So just go over to hosting.greatdetectives.net and learn more about it. All right, well, we're going to get into today's episode of Let George Do It. This one is called The Seven Murder. We'll listen to it, and then we'll come back.
Standard of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. Another adventure of George Valentine.
Personal notice. Danger is my stock and trade. If it's too hot for you to handle and you need confidential help, you got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Dear Mr. Valentine, last night I told a stupid, needless lie. I didn't think it mattered to anyone but me. And yet because of it, an innocent man has been arrested today. Tell the truth, you say? And if I do, I lose my wife, lose my job, and end up in jail. There's got to be a way out.
Will you see me at my office as soon as you get this letter? I'm editor of the News and Review magazine, and it's signed Arnold Loomis.
Mr. Loomis certainly must have told a whopper, Brooksy.
Oh, men will tell lies and women will shed tears. 'Twas ever thus.
Okay, Sarah Bernhardt.
I'm quoting Ma Perkins.
Well, if this gentleman can tell such fabulous fibs, Angel, this whole letter could be the result of an overactive imagination.
Yes, I know, dear. But since you have an overactive curiosity, shall we get started?
Well, Mr. Loomis?
Mr. Valentine, I like to gamble. It's the only thing that stood between my wife and me for years. I thought I had it licked.
Yeah?
Well, the day before yesterday, I left the office early and drew $1,000 from the bank. 10 crisp $100 bills, practically all of our savings.
To gamble with?
Oh, no, Miss Brooks. Martha and I were going on our second honeymoon. We planned it for a long time.
Oh.
But, well, you can guess what happened.
Oh, yeah, I know. The best intentions. What was it, a poker game or a bookie?
The racetrack.
I see. And the bangtails made off with you $1,000.
Naturally, I'd have to explain it to Martha, and she'd never forgive me. She'd leave me. Well, then I had what I thought was a brilliant idea. I went to the police.
The police? Can they arrest horses for not coming in first?
I made up a story. I told them I was driving along Randall Boulevard. A man asked me for a lift, and when he got in, he stuck a gun in my ribs and took the money.
Oh, hey, playing games like that with the police doesn't come under the head of innocent merriment. Go on, Mr. Loomis.
Well, they questioned me. Well, I had to give them some sort of description of the man. I made it as vague as possible. 5'10", dark complexion, medium build, age mid-30s, a grayish suit, you know.
But your letter, Mr. Loomis. Don't tell me they found your mythical man.
Yes, I had to go down to headquarters yesterday morning to identify him.
Hold it, my friend, hold it. Fun is fun. What do you mean you identified him?
I had no choice. The man confessed to holding me up. Huh? He identified me, yes. Not only that, they found 10 $100 bills in his pocket. I tell you, Mr. Valentine, it's...
Yeah, I know. Absurd, incredible, etc.
And was this man dark complexion, medium build, mid-30s, etc.?
Yes, everything fitted. Well, I couldn't tell the police. I just dreamt up the whole thing, and, of course, there's still Martha.
What do you want me to do, Loomis?
I've got a conscience, man. I can't let this Neil Denquist, or whatever his name is, take the blame for a crime that never happened. There must be some mistake. But what?
Was there any mention in the papers about your so-called holdup?
Yes, a small paragraph on the back pages.
What are you driving at, George?
Well, no man in his right mind takes a rap for something he didn't do.
What makes me feel even worse? The police gave me back my $1,000. I mean the $1,000 that I...
This Denquist guy isn't crazy. He must have some very interesting reasons for playing the fall guy.
I don't know what to think, Valentine, but you've got to find out what it's all about.
Okay, I'll string along with you and try to keep this from your wife. Can you prove you were out at the racetrack and lost all that money?
Why, No, I'm sure there was nobody there to recognize me.
Well, how about the tickets you bought on the horses?
No, I tore them all up.
Loomis, give Miss Brooks one of your pictures. Maybe one of the ticket sellers at the racetrack may remember you.
Yes, of course.
Meantime, I'll talk to Neil Denquist and see just why he's so anxious to frame himself.
You're the lawyer they assigned to me?
No, Denquist.
Reporter?
Yeah, that's right, a reporter. It's my job to find out what really happened.
You can get that from the desk, Sergeant.
Oh, I'd rather get it from you.
Well, I just didn't get the breaks. That's why I'm here in this cell. I tried to get rid of the gun in Fairview Park. Some woman saw me and told the cop. He picked me up and found the money in my pocket.
Uh-huh. Very interesting.
They had my description from that man, Loomis, and that's all there is to it.
This is your first offense, isn't it, Denquist?
Yeah, you know how it is. A guy gets strapped for money, he thinks he can pick it up the easy way. He gets caught. End of story.
Quite a story, too.
Huh? What do you mean?
Oh, nothing. Crime doesn't pay. Honest toil is its own reward. You know, you think of the other.
Oh.
Maybe seeing you again, Denquist. In fact, I'm sure of it. Well, Brooksy, what'd you find out at the track?
Well, not a thing, George. Arnold Loomis didn't leave an impression with any of the ticket sellers.
I see. Well, I didn't get anything out of Denquist.
You mean he doesn't mind sitting in jail for something he didn't do?
Oh, no, he's very philosophical about the whole thing. Now, listen, Angel.
Yeah?
I didn't tell Denquist what Loomis told us, that he was never robbed.
Well, wouldn't that have helped to get to the bottom of all this?
Yeah, it might have. But I think there's a better way to go about it. And that brings us to you.
Me?
Yeah, you. There's a Mrs. Denquist, Francine Denquist. I looked it up. Now, here's the address.
So?
Well, if Francine cares anything about her husband, she doesn't like the idea of his languishing in jail. Now, if you talk to her, woman to woman, and tell her there was no robbery for Denquist to commit, we might get more out of her than we could possibly get out of him.
And how am I supposed to know about Loomis?
Well, tell her the truth. You're working with me. See, I'm sure Denquist is innocent, and I'm going to prove it. Okay, that's the story, Brooksy.
Right, George.
So fancy it up a little, Angel, and see what we get.
Miss Brooks, I don't know why this man Loomis told you what he did.
But doesn't it make you happy, Mrs. Denquist?
It might, if I could believe it. But I know what Neil has told me, and he's never lied to me.
Well, there might be the first time, although I can't imagine why.
He stole that money from me. We never more than scraped by with that job. He has. I told him again and again I was happy, but he kept saying I deserved better things.
Oh.
Neil told me he wants to take what's coming to him. Serve his sentence, get it over with. I want it that way, too. Then we can forget the whole thing and start all over again.
Isn't there anything I can say to convince
I
you
love
that...
Neil enough to stand by him and wait. Then we can build some kind of real happiness together.
But...
Enough has been said about what he did. The best thing you and Mr. Valentine can do is leave us alone.
Mrs. Denquist, why would Mr. Loomis make up such a weird story? Insist your husband couldn't have robbed him?
Why would Neil take the blame for something he didn't do and part with $1,000 we haven't even got?
Well, I know, but...
There's nothing more to say, Miss Brooks.
Lieutenant Riley, I admit Mr. Loomis did a very foolish thing when he handed in that false report of a robbery, but can't
Foolish thing? Oh, Valentine, you mustn't be harsh on your client.
Huh?
Just a little prank, that's all. We love to send out alarms.
Oh.
It's lucky for you and Loomis it wasn't a prank, and that we found the man who robbed him.
Well, frankly, I'm confused, George. Both Denquist and Mrs. Denquist are satisfied with the way things are.
Look, Lieutenant, I told you the only way I can make any sense out of it is that...
Let's not go into that again, please. Of all the crazy... Look, a man reads in the paper about a hold.
That's right.
The description of the culprit might fit him.
Yeah.
So he puts 10 $100 bills in his pocket, gets himself picked up, then confesses all. Now, why? Why?
Because he might want an alibi for something much more serious that took place about the same time.
Ah, stop it, Valentine, stop it. I ought to have my head examined, but I'm having that information checked for you right now.
Well, maybe it's reaching, Lieutenant, but if George is right, it would explain why Loomis and Denquist are acting as they are.
And it's about the only thing that would.
All right, all right.
Here's the dope you asked for, Lieutenant.
I'll take it, Sergeant, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Now, Valentine, I hope you'll be satisfied. Loomis was held up on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock.
That's right.
Well, according to this report here, the only crimes of a violent nature that took place in our fair city were...
What's the matter, Lieutenant?
Of course. I should have remembered the Hafey case.
Yeah, what about it?
Young Mrs. Hafey was found murdered in her home on Norton Heights. The medical examiner says it happened around, here it is, 7 o'clock Tuesday night.
Come on, let's hear some more, Lieutenant.
Murderer still at large, Gloria Hafey, 27. Husband's name, John Hafey, broker. Victim previously married to... Here, Valentine. You can have the honor. You've earned it.
Holy Moses, get this book, see? Victim previously married to Neil Denquist.
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. Meanwhile, a word about that motor in your car. That finely polished and precision-built engine that gives your car all its go can't be neglected. In fact, it needs more attention when you're asleep than when you're driving. And the reason for that is internal engine rust, which goes to work when condensed moisture begins to creep over parts. Nearly any ordinary oil can fight off rust when your car is running and there's full circulation of the lubricant. But RPM motor oil is compounded to protect the engine when it's running hot and when it's standing cold. Unlike ordinary oils, RPM doesn't run away from its job when you cut the motor. A special adhering compound in RPM keeps a tough oil film on all engine parts, protects the interior of your engine from rust. And that's another reason why Western motorists choose RPM motor oil 2-to-1 over any other motor oil. Get RPM at any standard station or independent Chevron gas station where they say and mean, we'll take better care of your car. And now back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. Well, just put yourself in George's place. Your client, Arnold Loomis, tells you he made a great big fib about being robbed. Why? So his wife wouldn't find out he lost $1,000 on the ponies. Then he tells you that a man, one Neil Denquist, has confessed to this crime that never was. You learn that a murder's been committed about the same time of the alleged holdup. So what else would you be talking about now to Lieutenant Riley?
Yeah, Lieutenant, this was an alibi for the books, all right. If the police insist Denquist was committing a felony on Randall Boulevard Tuesday at 7, he couldn't possibly be at Norton Heights committing murder.
Well, all I have to do now is sweat the truth out of Denquist.
Oh, Lieutenant, if you can, go easy with Loomis, will you? So his wife doesn't find out that he lied?
I'll do what I can. Oh, yes. You can tell your client that he owes Denquist $1,000.
Yeah, that's right, isn't it?
And I have an idea Denquist is going to need it for a lawyer to keep him out of the gas chamber.
Okay, Lieutenant. I'll pass that on to Loomis right now.
Oh, it's you, Valentine. Come in.
What is this?
Well, what happened to you, Mr. Loomis?
That bandage. You look like the boy with the fife in the spirit of 76.
I feel older than that.
Oh, don't tell me your wife found out what you did with that money.
No, Martha's been out all evening, thank heaven.
Come on, let's get to the point, Loomis. Who went to work on your head?
I don't know.
What?
I was in the living room reading. I heard the front door open and took it for granted it was Martha.
Yeah?
Then, when I didn't hear anything for a few minutes, I went out into the hall to see. And the next thing I knew, I was getting up off the floor.
Anything missing?
No, that's the strange part of it. Not a thing. I went over the whole apartment. I don't understand it.
Yeah. Something else that defies all reason, eh, Loomis? It seems you're allergic to that sort of thing.
Well, George, don't you think you ought to tell Mr. Loomis about Denquist?
Huh? Oh, what about him? Did you prove that he couldn't have possibly held me up?
More or less. I'll be able to tell you more tomorrow. Now, think hard, Loomis. Do you know of anybody who'd want to conk you on the head just for the sheer joy of it?
I know. No, not a soul, Valentine. I don't have an enemy in the world.
Ah. Well, maybe it was a dear friend. Anyway, I'll call you later.
When a guy gambles as heavily as Loomis did, there might be a lot of people who'd want to give him a good going over. And maybe one of them did tonight.
Sorry, Lieutenant, I can't throw it away like that.
I think George is right. Somehow it ties up with this whole case.
Case? Yeah, this thing is turning out to be a Chinese puzzle. My boys have been taking turns talking to Denquist, but he just sits there and sticks to his story.
Hey, wait a minute. Come to think of it, Lieutenant, very little has been said about Gloria Hafey's present husband.
Well, you can rest easy about John Hafey. He was nuts about his wife. He's a respectable broker, and he has an alibi for Tuesday evening.
And what kind of an alibi?
Well, he was in several hotel bars before going home to dinner. There are a lot of people to prove it, too.
Oh? You happen to have any pictures of the late Mrs. Hafey?
Well, just these. The one the boys took at the scene of the crime.
Must have been beautiful.
Yeah, and took care of herself. Looks like she'd just come back from the beauty parlor when she was killed. Hadn't even combed out her hair yet.
Well, I won't take up any more of your time, Lieutenant.
Miss Denquist here to see you, Lieutenant.
Good. I want to see her, too. Tell her to come in.
Yes, sir. Go right in, Miss Denquist.
Lieutenant Riley, you're trying to frame my husband for Gloria Hafey's murder, aren't you?
We're trying to get the truth out of him, Mrs. Denquist.
No, you aren't. Why did this woman here come to my house and try to make me say that Neil was lying about that holdup?
This woman here happens to be my assistant, Mrs. Denquist. My name is Valentine.
And I didn't try to make you say anything. We were just trying to prove your husband's innocent.
Yes, so the police could get him on a murder charge.
Just a minute. How did you know we connected your husband with the Hafey case at all?
You think I'm that stupid? I read about Gloria's murder in the papers. I knew you'd finally get around to Neil.
Oh, yeah.
You were bound to find out he hated her. When he was married to that Gloria, he had a good job. He was doing well. She bled him, spent every cent he made. When she divorced him, he had no spirit left, nothing.
You know you're only building the motive for murder, don't you?
You'd find out all those things anyway. But Neil is innocent. Lieutenant Riley, he was just where he said he was Tuesday night, and here's the proof.
Huh?
A money clip.
To Arnold from Martha.
Arnold Loomis. Martha's his wife's name.
Where did you get this, Mrs. Denquist?
Home, in Neil's bureau drawer. He took it when he stole that money.
Are you sure you didn't get this somewhere else? And after going to a great deal of trouble?
I don't know what you mean.
Valentine, I'm beginning to feel like a weather vane. This money clip seems to support Denquist's story and call your client a screwball or worse.
Yeah, well, I'm sticking with Loomis, Lieutenant. And it's going to take a lot to stop me from proving that Denquist is lying in his teeth.
Mr. Valentine?
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering when you'd get back. I'm John Hafey.
Oh, yeah, I've been thinking a lot about you. Come on, let's go in the office.
Hey.
Grab a chair, Mr. Hafey.
Oh, thank you.
This is my assistant, Miss Brooks.
How do you do?
How do you do, Miss Brooks? May I get right to the point?
I wish you would.
I had a talk with Lieutenant Riley. I know you're working on the Denquist case.
That's right.
I also know your sentiments, and they're mine exactly.
What do you mean?
Well, naturally, I know a great deal about Neil Denquist. I'm as sure as you are that he's lying about holding up that man on Tuesday night.
Yeah? What makes you so sure?
The things Gloria told me about it. He isn't a very stable character. He could never hold a decent job. It was a terrible struggle for Gloria while they were married.
Oh, really?
Finally, when she just couldn't stand it any longer, well...
Go on.
I won't say he threatened her, but he was very bitter.
I see. Well, thanks for the information. It was nice of you to go to all this trouble to tell me.
It's more than that, Valentine. If Denquist is lying about Tuesday, he killed Gloria. I want you to do everything in your power to see if you can break his alibi.
That's what I am doing, Mr. Hafey.
I mean, don't spare the cost and keep at it, no matter how long it takes. I'd like you to consider me a client.
Well, I have no objection to being paid twice for the same job.
You keep in touch with me then.
You can count on that.
You can reach me in my office until 5 o'clock every day.
Talk about your split personality. Gloria, sinner, or saint?
You pays your money and you takes your choice. Hey, what a deal, Brooksy. A guy decided to lie to his wife, and now look up what we've got.
2 clients.
Hello? Yeah, Lieutenant. Hey, wait a minute. Hold it. I want Brooksy to take this down. Hey, Angel.
Yeah, go ahead, George.
Telegram phone in from Hafey House. 3:30 p.m. Tuesday. Go ahead, Lieutenant. Neil, be at my house at 7. I'll expect you. I think you know better than to cross me. Signed, Gloria.
George.
Now, what does Denquist have to say about this, Lieutenant? Sticks to his story, huh? Yeah, okay. Call you later. Thanks.
Who dug up the telegram, George?
A girl at Western Union. She read about the case and remembered the wire.
Looks real bad for Denquist.
Brooksy, where did you ever get your rare insight?
What?
I mean your uncanny gift of putting your finger on the one thing that lights up the whole situation, brings order out of chaos. Just like pressing a light switch in a dark room.
Oh, stuff like that. Oh, now, look, what did I say? What are you talking about?
Before we go into that, Angel, let's see if I'm right.
George, this could be technically called illegal entry.
Now, what's illegal about dropping in at your client's house the back way through the garden? Hafey isn't home, no servants around, and I'm in a hurry. Now, wait a minute. Let's try these French doors over here.
Well, I wish you'd tell me what my psychic powers told you. You know, you can't tell a girl she's like a light switch in a dark room and then just clam up.
We're in luck. Come on in. Now, what do you suppose that light switch is?
That's me, remember? I'll just say something and behold, there shall be light.
Oh, great. Hey, here we are. Brooksy, I got to find the name of the beauty parlor Mrs. Hafey was in the habit of using.
Oh, I see. You remember what I said when we were looking at that picture in Riley's office.
Yeah, that's right. Now, it must be in an address book or on the telephone pad.
Yeah.
I can't wait till tomorrow, and it can be anywhere in the city.
Valentine, look out! Get down!
Are you all right, Brooksy?
I guess so.
Stay just where you are. I'll switch the lights back on and see if everything's all right.
Hafey?
Yeah, just a minute.
Hey, what goes, Hafey?
I guess it's okay. Whoever it was has disappeared.
What happened anyway?
I just came home, Miss Brooks. I saw you two standing here in the center of the room. I was about to say something when I noticed someone standing in the door to the garden with a gun in her hand.
Her hand?
I think so. It was hardly more than a shadow, but it looked like a woman. The only thing I could think of was to turn off the light and shout.
Well, it's certainly a good thing you did.
Hey, come out here, Hafey. You were right. It was a woman.
Oh?
You can see the heel marks here in the ground.
Francine Denquist. She's the only one it could be.
It's fantastic that she should go this far to keep you from smashing her husband's alibi.
She's a desperate woman, Hafey, and she's in love. Well, it's lucky you came along. We owe you our lives.
Don't you think we ought to call Lieutenant Riley?
No, I've got a better idea.
What's that, George?
Hafey, I wonder if you drive Miss Brooks down to headquarters and wait there for me.
Of course.
Oh, yeah, and ask Lieutenant Riley to pick up Loomis and Mrs. Denquist.
What have you got in mind?
I just have to make one stop, then I'll join you. Mr. Hafey, I think I can clean this thing up for you tonight.
Oh, Sergeant.
Yes, Lieutenant.
Tell Loomis and Hafey to keep their shirts on. I'll get around to them in a little while.
Yes, sir.
And as soon as Valentine arrives, get him right in here.
Right.
Mrs. Denquist, it's no use trying to keep anything from the lieutenant.
Miss Brooks is right. We'll check and find out where you were every minute this evening.
I did everything I could. I guess it's over now. It was a horrible thing to do, but I did try to kill Mr. Valentine.
Because he was bent on proving your husband's alibi was a phony?
Was it, Mrs. Denquist?
Yes. Yes. From beginning to end. Neil got Gloria's telegram at the store where he works. He didn't know what to think, but he knew what kind of a woman she was.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
He went out to Norton Heights. When he got there, she was already dead.
Well, why didn't he just call the police?
That sounds very simple, Miss Brooks. But if he were found there, he'd be the first one to be suspected. Luckily, no one saw Neil, so we came home, and the next morning, together, we thought of a wonderful, foolproof scheme.
The Loomis business.
We read about Mr. Loomis being held up. The description could fit Neil, and you know the rest. Funny. One time in a million, a man would lie about being robbed. He would be the one we picked on. Had it been a real robbery, no one would have denied Neil the honor of being the criminal.
Well, we've got that straightened out. But the question of whether your husband killed Gloria Hafey is something for the DA's office and the jury to decide.
May I see Neil a minute? I know he needs me.
Yeah, sure. But I'm not forgetting the attempted murder charge against you and the little matter of assault and battery on Mr. Loomis to get that money clip. Sergeant!
Yes, sir.
Take Mrs. Denquist down and let her talk to her husband.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And tell Mr. Hafey to come in. He might as well know what happened.
Yes, sir.
Now, Miss Brooks.
I know. Where's George?
When he disappears like this, I tell you just... Oh, Mr. Hafey, come in.
Yes, Lieutenant.
I think we've scotched Mr. Denquist's alibi, but whether he's guilty or not remains to be seen.
I see. I guess I'm too tired at this point to have any reaction to that.
Oh, I'm sorry to be so long, Lieutenant.
Oh, what gives, George?
Well, I just had a very interesting conversation with Michelle, Mrs. Hafey's hairdresser.
Well, how nice.
Yeah, Michelle was doing her hair from 2 to 4 last Tuesday. You remember, Lieutenant. Brooksy remarked that Mrs. Hafey must have just come from the hairdresser.
Say, wait a minute. Did you say from 2 to 4?
That's right.
But that telegram was phoned in from the Hafey house at 3:30 and signed Gloria.
Which means she didn't send the telegram, Lieutenant.
What?
It was sent by someone else who belonged in that house. Someone who wanted Denquist to be found there with the body.
What, George?
What could that mean, Mr. Valentine? Who?
Well, this is a shabby way to repay someone who saved my life, but it was you, Hafey, who sent that telegram. You killed your wife. How many twists can one case take, Brooksy?
Well, I've stopped counting the ones this one had.
Mrs. Denquist, innocent as country butter, takes a pot shot at me. Hafey, guilty as sin, saves me because we happen to be working in the same direction.
Yeah, well, is he still sticking to his alibi?
No, that went over the side, Angel. He made a round of the bars, all right, but he had time between stops for a little homicide. Gloria was giving him the works, just as she did Neil Denquist, but on a much bigger scale.
Oh, hello, Mr. Loomis.
Oh, Miss Brooks, I'm in a hurry, but I want you to do yourself a favor.
Well, Mr. Loomis?
Now, put this money I owe you on fair weather in the 5th at Corona Park, and put it on the nose.
Oh, Mr. Loomis, I'm disappointed in you. I thought you'd reform.
But I have, Miss Brooks, thanks to you and Mr. Valentine. I only give tips now. I don't take them.
Like a rolling stone, a rolling wheel bearing gathers no moss, but in 5,000 miles it does roll through a heap of dust. Often the first sign that your car's front wheel bearings have been neglected and need prompt attention is uneven tire wear. And without a repacking job, dry bearings are in danger of being ground to pieces by the weight of your car. So to keep a large-size repair bill away from your door, get front wheel bearings serviced every 5,000 miles. For this important job, rely on the experts at independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations. These men have the skill of long experience, and they use only RPM wheel bearing grease, the lubricant that's tailor-made to seal out grit, dust, and moisture, tailor-made to give your front wheels all the protection they need. And that kind of service is another reason why standard stations and independent Chevron gas stations say and mean, we'll take better care of your car. Next week, when you tune our way for another adventure of George Valentine, you'll hear...
Couldn't wait till you got here, Valentine.
Oh, it's so good to see you, George. I was so afraid that gorilla saw me slip you that note.
What about Bigelow, Lieutenant?
Well, this is just how we found the place. Empty. I put out a general alarm for Bigelow.
Hey, what was in that note about Collins, Brooksy?
Well, it's too late now. Collins is dead.
Not just dead either, Valentine. Collins was murdered. And that means we're not looking for just a stack of paper. We're after a murderer.
Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West. Let George Do It stars Robert Bailey as George with Frances Robinson as Claire. Wally Mayer appears as Lieutenant Riley. Tonight's story was written by David Victor and Herbert Little, Jr. and directed by Jaime Del Valle. Also heard in the cast were John Daner as Arnold Loomis, Bill Conrad as Neil Denquist, Georgia Ellis as Francine Denquist, and Herbert Butterfield as John Havey. The music is composed and conducted by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. They used a similar plot to this in one of the recordings that were on the Harry Goodman transcriptions. This definitely reminds me of Sucker Stunt. That was the last episode of the Let George collection, Volume 1 from Radio Archives, where they had episodes weren't in general circulation. But the killer was different, but the plot very similar here. The one I really thought about radio, listening to the end credits, how in some ways, while the death of radio hurt the radio star, it may have opened opportunities up for a lot of people to get into acting who may not have been able to in the world of radio. Because you hear the same co-stars or guest stars over and over again. We heard Bill. You heard Bill Conrad. Also, John Daner. If you're a fan of OTR Westerns, the old-time radio daily Western show, John Daner appeared in this, and he plays Paladin on the radio version of Have Gun Will Travel. So it does seem that a lot of actors were able to really work multiple radio shows, and in a way that just simply was not possible in television. Virginia Gregg, of course, we mentioned, had about 2,000 roles, and I think Betty Lou Gerson had about 5,000, and it really is amazing how some people were just able to absolutely dominate the field of radio's early days. Well, or maybe golden age, I should say. All right, well, we got one more comment here. This one is from Anders, who said, I understand the Perry Mason old-time radio programs, pre-Raymond Burr, were crime serials. I've heard a few podcasts, but have always been disappointed in that they were not syndicated as a complete case. That is an ordered set of programs from beginning to end to tell a case story. If complete cases are available, they might be a good addition to your future programming. I did some searches, but only found a list of shows like puzzle pieces. It was not clear how they form complete cases. Well, that is a great comment, and I looked into the Perry Mason series, and I tried to see if there could be any connection made. There were around 2,900 episodes done, and generally you can find about 200 to 300 that will that are out there. But the problem is stringing them together and finding the beginnings, finding the ends. I tried to look into it, and it didn't seem to work. It's sad because there's relatively so many episodes, but nobody that I'm aware of has been able to find a way to categorize them into the story. This is kind of the, and you see that with a lot of the great serial shows. I Love a Mystery is a fairly well-beloved program, but you only have two or three story arcs that are actually complete, and any of those 5-part, multi-part shows, it's really tough. We're fortunate that we have all the episodes we do as Superman. We're fortunate we have the 5-part Johnny Dollar episodes, but a lot of serial soaps that were made because they each one kind of builds upon another. You know, we can skip 8 or 9 episodes and let George do it, listen to a new one, and we haven't missed a whole lot because each show's one shot. But the serials, they're tough, and it's sad in a way because there are some interesting characters. The only way that we can actually really even say, I've got Dick Tracy on the list of shows that I got to listen to more of, is that Dick Tracy did actually do a series of half-hour shows. And there's, I think, 3 or 4 floating around. There's several of the serials, but again, it's the challenge of getting those to actually connect together. Before we get into today's episode of Sherlock Holmes, I watched another Rathbone Bruce Sherlock Holmes movie. This one, Sherlock Holmes in Washington. Well, it was a very well done installment. The mystery got solved pretty early, but there was a fantastic chase. Really, the basic plot is that a British agent was killed with some secret papers, and Holmes has got to recover them. Rathbone had a great job. He was in top form really throughout the whole thing. There's some pretty funny stuff, particularly with Watson, with the fish out of water stuff. To see Nigel Bruce trying to pass off 1940s American slang was funny. And then, of course, patriotic message at the end with Sherlock Holmes quoting Winston Churchill, and in addition to that, they had an ad that we could go pick up our war bonds in the lobby after the film. So it's a nice little collection. I'm not going to be able to bring you that particular film because it's not in the public domain. But I would encourage you to check it out from a library, buy it off Amazon, or you can get it off of Netflix. Well, that actually is an interesting segue here, because before we get started with today's show, I do want to urge you, if you haven't tried it yet, to try out Netflix. It can be expensive to be able to get good films for the family, particularly when a DVD may not be watchable 100 times. You get one of those Disney ones, you can watch it forever. But as kids get older, it's watch a DVD once and then done. Well, that's where Netflix is so great. You can just check out a DVD, watch it, and send it back. And with so many titles, you'll find something to fit your taste no matter what it is. You can try it for a 2 weeks free trial. Go to netflix.greatdetectives.net or go to greatdetectives.net. Click on the Netflix banner. Well, now we're going to get into today's episode of Sherlock Holmes. This one was called In Flanders Field, and it was actually recorded before a live audience at the Paramount Theater. Now, I did some searching, and I couldn't find out where this Paramount Theater once was. I know that some of the theaters that were used for old-time radio are being run by other companies, like Ricardo Montalban Theater in Los Angeles. There were several old-time radio shows recorded there. But I'm not sure where this Paramount Theater was. I searched. So if anybody has an idea which Paramount Theater is being referred to, send it to me, box 13 at greatdetectives.net. Price of admission was a war bond, but since most of you were born after World War II, you get in free. Well, if you were in the listening audience, you got in free anyway. All right, so let's go ahead and take a listen to In Flanders Field.
This episode from the life of Sherlock Holmes will be transmitted to our men and women overseas by shortwave and through the worldwide facilities of the Armed Forces Radio Service. From the stage of the Paramount Theater in Hollywood, Petri Wine brings you Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce in the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes. The Petri family, the family that took time to bring you good wine, invites you to listen to Dr. Watson tell us about another exciting adventure he shared with his old friend, that master detective, Sherlock Holmes. You know something? If right now it were possible for me to ask every one of you what you had for dinner this evening, I'll bet a good many of you would say chicken. Chicken is an all-American favorite. But boy, you just haven't tasted chicken till you've tried it together with a glass of well-chilled Petri California Sauterne. Petri Sauterne is a perfect mealtime wine, just made to go with chicken. That Petri Sauterne is a white wine, delicate in color, and what a flavor. A flavor that comes right from the hard, luscious, sun-ripened grapes. You can just taste those wonderful grapes. And I'll tell you something, that Petri Sauterne is pretty much on the terrific side when served with fish or any kind of seafood, too, and that's a fact. But say, whenever you serve that Petri Sauterne, remember you can serve it proudly, because the name Petri is the proudest name in the history of American wines. And now for our weekly doctor's appointment. Let's knock on his library door and see if...
There's no point in doing that, Mr. Slattery. I'm right behind you.
Oh, hello, Dr. Watson. Don't tell me you've been stalking me.
No, my boy. I was on the patio and I heard your footsteps, so I thought that I'd come in and fetch you. Let's go back and sit out there, shall we? It's a beautiful evening.
That's fine with me, Doctor.
Here we are. Now, settle yourself down in a chair and light a cigarette, if you have one. And I'll get on with my story.
Well, last week you told us it concerned an adventure that you and Sherlock Holmes had in Flanders during the First World War.
That's right, Mr. Slattery, did.
I thought that you and the great man had retired at that period.
We had, my boy, but it was only natural that as soon as the war broke out, we both offered our services in any capacity that might help our country.
Of course. And how did tonight's story begin, Doctor?
It was in the winter of that first year. Things weren't going very well for the Allies. The Germans were advancing on Paris, and the picture was looking very black. It was just 24 hours before the famous Battle of the Marne began, the battle that changed the early course of the war, when Holmes told me that we had to go up to the front lines on a secret mission. We'd been in Paris for several weeks, where Holmes had just solved the case of the missing aide-de-camp. I was anxious to get back to England and my work in the war hospitals, but of course this new summons was in the nature of a command. And so, late on a rainy September afternoon, Holmes and I, with the boom of gunfire in our ears, found ourselves in the front seat of a staff car, sloshing and jolting its way towards the battlefield.
I've not been too fast for you, gentlemen.
No, Sergeant, not at all. No, you're doing a splendid job. Oh, my man, look out, considering the state of the road.
Thank you, sir.
Hello? The gunfire's getting nearer, Holmes.
Yes, old fellow. I imagine we've much further to go, have we, Sergeant? No, sir, we're nearly there.
Did you notice the two civilians in the back seat, Holmes?
Yes. Handsome woman and a distinguished-looking man, several years her senior.
I wonder who they are.
I'll tell you. He's a Shakespearean actor of some note, though he never achieved the fame which he thinks he's entitled. I shouldn't be at all surprised if he feels that he's been slighted in not receiving a knighthood.
But, Holmes, it's amazing. How can you possibly deduce all that from just looking at the man as he got into the car?
Elementary, my dear fellow, I didn't deduce it. We saw him twice last year in the London Theatre, if you remember. What? His name is Maitland Morris. As for his biography, he's a friend of my brother, Mycroft's. He told me about him.
Well, what do you suppose he's doing up here near the front line?
His brother is General Sir Stanley Morris, who's command of this particular front, and it would seem reasonable to presume that his brother has come up here to give a performance for the front-line troops. I suppose this hut is as far as we can drive, Sergeant.
I'm afraid so, sir. We're 4 miles from the front line now. You'll have to clear your papers here. See that ruined farmhouse there, sir?
Yes, Sergeant. Is that the General's headquarters?
Yes, sir.
Come on, Watson.
Good Lord, it's pelting with rain.
Yeah, let's make a dash for it.
Oh, who goes there?
Friend.
Give the password.
St. Crispin.
Pass, friends, and show your papers.
How did you know the password, Holmes?
I was given it before we left Paris, old chap.
Oh, Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, isn't it?
Yes, Captain.
I'm Captain Maxwell, General Morris's aide-de-camp. He asked me to escort you up to his headquarters. By the way, weren't Maitland Morris and his wife in the car with you?
Yes, they're just behind us.
Oh, splendid. I'm afraid I'll have to ask you your papers.
Yes, of course. Here's my permit, Captain Maxwell.
Thank you. I know you both, of course, but we can't afford to take any chances when they're this close to the enemy lines. Let's see. Oh, yes, that's fine, Doctor. Everything's in order. Yours, please, Mr. Holmes.
Here you are.
Thanks.
Oh, who goes there? Friend.
There's the rescue party now.
Oh, good. This is quite in order, Mr. Holmes.
Show your papers.
Oh, there you are, Captain Maxwell.
Oh, hello, sir. Hello, Mrs. Morris.
How are you, Captain Maxwell?
Well, you've both met Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, I suppose?
No, we haven't, even though we drove up in the same car. Natural reserve of us Britishers, I suppose. How are you, Mr. Holmes?
How do you do, Sam?
I know your brother Mycroft very well. How are you, Doctor?
I'm glad to meet you, Mr. Morris. I saw you a couple of times in the theatre last year and enjoyed your performances very much.
Well, thank you, sir. Then you must know my wife, my leading lady.
How do you do, gentlemen?
How do you do, Mr. Morris?
Can I see your papers, Mr. Morris? Just a matter of form. You understand.
Yes, of course.
Mrs. Morris, I presume you and your husband are going to give a performance tonight for the men going up the front line.
Yes, Doctor. We're very flattered. They've asked us to do some Shakespearean things.
Oh, yes.
Although I should have thought something a little lighter would have been more appropriate. The General, he's Maitland's brother, you know, seemed to think differently.
Well, my dear, show Captain Maxwell your papers. Then we can all go along and see my brother Stanley.
Very well, Maitland.
Mr. Morris, I shall look forward to hearing your reading of Shakespeare's St. Crispin's speech from Henry V tonight.
Oh, bless my soul, Holmes. How did you know I was planning to do it?
Well, the setting is so perfect and the time so appropriate, I can't conceive an English actor who could resist the temptation.
Oh.
I noticed that your brother appreciated the fact in naming today's password.
Yes, it's amazingly appropriate. You know, it's almost 500 years ago to the day that the Battle of Agincourt took place.
Well, let's hope that the results of the forthcoming battle will be equally successful for England.
Yes, indeed. Oh, by the way, Holmes, this will probably seem rather silly to you, but I'm an inveterate autograph collector, and I have my book here with me. I wonder if you'd mind signing.
I should be very glad to, Mr. Morris. Give me a pen, will you, Watson?
Holmes. You'll find yourself among quite distinguished company in that book, sir.
So I see. Adelina Patty, Crown Prince of Norway. Hello. Field Marshal von Tauchnitz.
Oh, yes. He was one of my admirers when I played in Munich before the war. I suppose now that our countries are fighting, I should tear that page out. Do you know, I cannot help but feel that art, the appreciation of art, are independent of national hatred.
Quite so, sir. I myself still have a medal presented to me by the University of Leipzig for some trifling services. There you are, Mr. Morris.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Holmes. A notable addition to my collection.
I shall be very glad to sign your book for you, Mr. Morris, if you'd like me to.
That's very kind of you, Doctor. Oh, Captain Maxwell, if our permits are all in order, don't you think we should be moving along?
Just what I was going to suggest myself. I'll take you all straight down to General Morris's headquarters. General Morris, may I introduce Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson?
How do you do, sir?
How are you, General?
How do you do? Know a lot about you. Long way from Baker Street, isn't it?
Yes, indeed, sir.
Where's that brother of mine? Ah, there you are, Maitland. Cynthia, how nice to see you both.
Oh, it's good to see you again, Stanley.
Hello there, Stanley.
The men will be glad you arrived. They're looking forward to your show tonight.
We're very flattered that they want to hear us do some Shakespeare.
Oh, rubbish, old boy. With you and Cynthia up there on the platform, you could read the telephone book and they'd love you.
Oh, very kind.
By the way, you'll find the stage very primitive. Just a few trestles and a large tent and a curtain made of army blankets. And your dressing room will be even worse.
Oh, don't worry about our comfort, Stanley. As long as we cheer the boys up, that's the important thing.
Yes, of course. By the way, what program do you have mapped out for us?
Well, I thought we'd have two shows. The tent's not large enough to hold everybody at once. Anyway, we have to keep up an alert all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Think you can manage two separate shows?
Oh, of course I can, Stanley. I may look old, but I don't feel it.
You don't even look at you, scoundrel.
Thank you. Perhaps we could take a look at the stage and equipment, eh?
Oh, certainly. Captain Maxwell, take them over to the tent and show them what the facilities are, will you?
Right, will you follow me?
Oh, yes, of course. See you later, Stanley. Come along, my dear.
All right.
I'm glad you're here, Holmes. I'm sure I can speak quite freely in front of Dr. Watson.
Oh, yes, with perfect freedom, sir. He's my colleague. He's an old army man himself.
Really? What regiment, Doctor?
5th Northumberland Fusiliers, sir. Later attached to the Butchers in Afghanistan and wounded in the Battle of Mainwan.
Really? Then I'm sure I can speak freely in front of Holmes, you know why you're up here so near the front line, don't you?
I have a very shrewd suspicion, sir.
Yeah, I thought you had. That's why I asked for you to be sent here.
You asked for me to be sent here, General. Yes, I understand.
Well, I wish I did.
You will, Doctor, in due time. In the meanwhile, gentlemen, I'll have an orderly show you to your quarters.
Thank you, sir.
And, Holmes, take a look around, will you, and keep your ears open. We're comparatively a little distance from the German front lines, and yet there's a very puzzling silence just now.
Yes, I noticed that, sir. And half an hour ago, on our way up, there was quite a lot of shelling.
Exactly. It's unnatural and rather frightening at a time like this. You see, we're attacking at dawn. The enemy might be trying to infiltrate spies, and the The success of this battle depends on a surprise attack.
I quite understand, sir. Come on, Watson.
Holmes. The first performance starts in a few minutes, you know. They're all there waiting. Why are you tramping about out here in the mud and the rain?
I thought a pipe or two in the open air would clear our brains.
Yes, a pipe in the open air is one thing, but a pipe in a downpour of rain is another.
Was it raining? Oh, didn't even notice it. I was listening to the silence.
What do you mean?
Thousands upon thousands of Germans. Armed Germans. Full of a blind fanatical hatred and desire to kill. Are crouched in trenches only a mile or two from here. Surrounding us are an equal number of English boys, also armed. And with a will, if not the desire, to fight. Because they know their cause is the cause of freedom and justice. All these thousands poised, ready to pounce on each other and fight to the death. And yet, beyond that patter of rain, there isn't a sound to break the stillness of a September evening. Strange world we live in, old chap.
You're being unusually rhetorical, Holmes.
Yes, I am, aren't I? Let's be a little more practical, shall we? I wonder what is wrong with the actors tonight.
Why do you ask that?
Well, a little while ago I noticed Mrs. Morris in a great state of excitement, going towards the farmhouse the General is. Then she went back to her own quarters, and now she seems to be headed in our direction. Is anything wrong, Mrs. Morris?
It's Maitland.
What's wrong with her, madam?
He disappeared.
Disappeared? What's happened?
We were in the tent together, making up for our performance, when an orderly came in with a message. Maitland said it was from his brother, slipped on a raincoat and went out, saying he'd be back in a few moments. I waited and waited, and after a while I got worried, and I went over to see General myself. He said that he'd sent no message, and that he hadn't seen any sign of Maitland.
Good Lord, what could have happened to him?
I don't know, Doctor, but I'm frightened. What shall I do, Mr. Holmes?
You're a brave woman, Mrs. Morris.
Brave? I don't know, Mr. Holmes. Why?
Because the show must go on. I shall take your husband's place.
But Holmes, something's happened to Maitland Morris. He's in danger.
True, Watson, true. Huh? But 1,000 men inside that tent are in mortal danger, too. Tomorrow morning, any of them may be corpses on the fields of Flanders. But tonight, they've been promised a show.
Do you think that you can do it, Holmes?
Oh, I think I can, with the help of Mrs. Morris.
I can't do it, Mr. Holmes.
You can, Mrs. Morris, and you will. If only to uphold that great tradition of the theater, that the show must go on.
We'll hear the rest of Dr. Watson's story in just a few seconds. Time I'd like to take to tell you that if you've got a butcher who has meat, and you've got the points to get that meat, don't forget to bring home a bottle of Petri California Burgundy. Tell you why. That Petri Burgundy is a rich red mealtime wine that's wonderful with any meat or meat dish. That's fact. Petri Burgundy can make a banquet out of a hamburger. And boy, Petri Burgundy and old-fashioned Irish stew are bosom companions. Just get yourself some Petri Burgundy and share it with your family. Petri Burgundy is the best brand a good meal ever had. And now, back to tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure. It is just before the Battle of the Marne in the First World War, and Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson are at headquarters a few miles behind the front-line trenches. A famous Shakespearean actor who was to give a performance for the troops has mysteriously disappeared, and the great detective has taken his place at the last minute. As we rejoin our story, Sherlock Holmes, alone on the improvised stage, is delivering a Shakespearean speech before a spellbound audience.
This happy breed of men, this little world, this precious stone set in a silver sea, which serves it in the office of a wall or as a moat defensive to a house against the envy of less happier lands. This blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England.
Holmes! That shot, are you all right?
Yes, old chap. Fortunately, I started to leave the stage as the shot was fired. The bullet just missed me. I heard it splinter some wood nearby.
But who on earth would want to shoot you?
That's what we've got to find out. I think it more likely that the shot was intended for me. It was not intended for me, but for Maitland Morris, the man for whom I'm substituting.
Well, even so, who'd want to shoot him?
Oh, don't ask me so many questions, old fellow. Let's see what clues we can find. Now, the shot was fired from outside the tent from behind me. Yes, look there. See the hole in the tent there?
By Jove, yes. The footlights would outline your shadow on the back of the tent. Whoever it must have Must have fired at your silhouette.
The question is, where did the bullet embed itself? Aha. Look here, Watson. You got a penknife?
Yeah, wait a minute. Here, Holmes.
This shouldn't be hard to extract. Look at this splintered tent pole. Wait a minute. There we are. Excellent. Huh. Very interesting.
Well, what's so interesting about it? Just a revolver bullet, isn't
no,
it?
it isn't, Watson.
Huh?
It's far from just a revolver bullet. This bullet was fired from a German Luger pistol.
A German pistol? Must have been a spy here behind our lines.
That's a reasonable enough assumption. Yes, we may be sure that no English soldier would carry such a weapon and face inspection. Come on, I want to talk to Mrs. Morris. Mrs. Morris, I want you to be very frank with me.
But of course, Mr. Holmes.
You know why your husband's missing, don't you?
No, I don't. Have you found out anything?
Come, madam. Why keep up this pretense any longer? I know that your husband is a spy, or at least a great sympathizer with the German cause.
The General's brother a spy? Good Lord.
How dare you say that?
Because it's true. Foreign Office have been suspicious of his sympathies for some time. His own brother knew it. That's why he asked to have me sent up here to keep an eye on him during his visit.
It is true. Why should I keep up the pretense any longer? You see, Maitland was a disciple of Stuart Houston Chamberlain.
Oh, who was this Stuart Houston Chamberlain?
An Englishman who married one of Richard Wagner's daughters and became a German citizen, and an arch enemy of England.
I tried to dissuade Maitland. I implored him to consider his British heritage, his brother's name and mine. But Maitland was a strange man. His life was one of frustration and envy.
Envy of his brother, I suppose?
Yes. When Stanley was knighted, it hurt Maitland terribly. He said it was typical if the English would knight a soldier and yet leave a great artist like himself unrecognized. That in Berlin, they really understood and rewarded the artist.
Well, if the authorities knew that, it's amazing they allowed him to come so close to the front lines at a time like this.
Oh, it was at the General's request. He wanted to plead with my husband to warn him that his secret was known. And now Maitland's gone over to the German lines. Oh, it's terrible.
It's worse than that. It's disastrous. He can give them information as to the strength of our troops here. He knows the password. He might even know the hour the attack is timed to start.
How did your husband expect to enter the German lines in safety, Mrs. Morris?
He speaks fluent German, Mr. Holmes. I fancy the autograph book he was carrying, containing the signature of Field Marshal von Tochnitz, was in reality his pass through the German line.
You've told the General that his father was gone, of course.
I haven't been able to. He moved up to the front line position immediately after the first performance, though I had warned him what I thought Maitland was planning to do. I think he intended to give his performance first, then cross the lines immediately afterwards. But something must have made him change his mind. Perhaps he suspected I'd warned the General. Anyhow, as you know, when I got back to our quarters, he'd gone.
Did he leave any note, madam?
Yes, he did. Here it is.
Thank you. I have gone, my dear. Try and understand and forgive if you can. You wouldn't come with me, and so I'm taking what is left of my heart and my hopes where they belong, among the friends that understand and appreciate me. It is something stronger than love and blood and country that makes me do this. It is something dearer to me than life itself. Dearer to me than life itself.
Oh, how could he? How could he? The shame of this will kill poor Stanley. Mr. Holmes, will you break the news to him? I know it's cowardly of me, but I just can't tell him myself.
Don't worry, Mrs. Morris. I'll tell him. Dr. Watson and I will ask Captain Maxwell to escort us to the General's frontline headquarters. In the meantime, try and keep calm. We'll tell him.
If you will wait in the dugout, Mr. Holmes, I'll tell the General that you're here.
Thank you, and be sure to let him know the urgency of the matter.
Yes, sir.
Holmes, this is a dreadful business.
Yes, it is, Watson. So if my plans work out correctly, I think the success of tomorrow's battle may not be imperiled.
What plan?
Listen.
You know, Holmes, a strange silence from the German line since we came here might be accounted for by the fact that they knew Maitland was making his getaway. They wouldn't want to risk wounding such a valuable spy.
Quite possibly.
What I still don't understand is who shot at you with a German pistol and why.
You're being very dense, old fellow. Surely it's obvious that... Here comes General Morris now.
Poor devil. This is going to be a dreadful shock to him.
Hello, Holmes. Dr. Watson?
General Morris, I'm afraid that I've bad news for you. Your brother has gone over to the German lines.
Maitland did go there. I should have put him under an armed guard as soon as he came here, but I thought I could reason with him, appeal to his sense of honor.
Instead of which you tried to shoot him, sir, but fortunately for me, you missed. You see, I took his place at the first performance.
But that shot was fired from a German pistol.
True. That was when I first knew the general had fired the shot.
But I still don't see how you could now.
Only a high-ranking officer, not subject to inspection, could carry a non-regulation firearm. You're an old army man, you know that. In any case, you'll observe that the general carries a Luger at his waist.
Great heavens, Holmes, I thought I was firing at Maitland. I had no idea that it was you.
You intended to kill your own brother, sir?
Yes, and I'm sorry I failed. I'd rather see my brother dead than alive and a traitor to his country. But now he's safely in the German lines. Heaven knows what secrets he may be imparting. One thing we can be certain. Our chance of a surprise attack in the morning is gone.
Possibly not, sir.
What do you mean?
You see, I took the liberty of altering our brother's credentials quite extensively.
How, Holmes?
I knew of his German sympathies. Mycroft had given me a great deal of information about him, and so I took it on myself to decide that it was unsafe to allow him so near the enemy lines with his own identification on him.
Well, what did you do, Holmes?
I took the liberty, sir, of stealing his autograph book, the one containing the magical signature of Field Marshal von Tauchnitz. I have it in my pocket now. I think we shall find within its pages a code concealed in the various autographs, giving valuable information to the enemy.
Good Lord.
I also switched military permits on him. I felt that in the event that he did go over to the German lines, his welcome might be less cordial if they were under the impression that they'd captured Sherlock Holmes. To make that identification doubly sure, I also slipped in his pocket a slight souvenir of my own.
By Joe, Holmes, you mean that medal that was presented to you by the University of Leipzig?
Exactly, old fellow. I no longer wish to own a decoration given me by a country of barbarians, and it seemed rather neat and effective way of returning it to them.
So the Germans will think they've captured Sherlock Holmes?
Yes, sir, and unless I'm much mistaken, he'll receive very short shrift at their hands.
Yes, they hate you.
There's your answer, sir. Sorry.
Don't be sorry, Holmes. It's better that way. Now his secret can die with him.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, Maxwell, what is it?
Would it be in order for me to return to headquarters now, sir? It's very nearly time for the second performance, and I've still been unable to trace the whereabouts of your brother.
Well, my brother will not be acting tonight, I'm afraid. Holmes, I wonder if I might ask you to take his place once again.
If you want me to, General.
I do. Maitland had planned to do the St. Crispin speech from Henry V. He knew how much I loved him.
I realize that, sir. When I was told the password up here.
Well, can you remember the speech, Holmes?
Oh, I think so. At any rate, I can try.
Then do it for me, my dear fellow, will you? For me.
I'll be very proud to do it, General. Goodbye and good luck.
Thank you, Holmes. Captain Maxwell, take them back to headquarters, will you? The men will be waiting for the performance.
Christian shall ne'er go by from this day to the ending of the world, but we in it shall remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. Be he ne'er so vile, this day shall gentle his condition. And gentlemen in England now abed shall think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap, while any speaks that fought with us upon St. Crispin's Day.
Well, Doctor, that was a bit of an exciting adventure you
I can still remember that awful feeling I had when I heard the shot in the tent and realized someone had tried to kill Holmes.
He did have a narrow escape, didn't he?
Well, Holmes always said there was no such thing as a narrow escape. He said you either escaped or you didn't. If you did, well, why worry? And if you didn't, you couldn't worry. So what?
Quite a philosophy. I'd like to discuss it with you further.
Over a bottle of wine?
How else?
What kind of wine?
Naturally.
Naturally.
Well, you couldn't ask for a more delicious wine than Petri. That's because the Petri family knows how to make good wine. They ought to. They've been making fine wine ever since they started the Petri business way back in the 1800s. And because the business has always been family-owned and operated, well, they've been able to hand on from father to son, all they've ever learned about the art of turning luscious grapes into fragrant, delicious wine. That's why no matter what type Petri wine you buy for any occasion, you can be sure it's good wine because Petri took time to bring you good wine. And now, Dr. Watson, how's about giving us a clue to next week's Sherlock Holmes adventure?
Next week, Mr. Trotter, I'm going to tell you a most unusual adventure in which Holmes and I are trapped in an airtight metal chamber, our only companion being a murdered scientist.
Well, sounds like a story we don't want to miss, Doctor. See you next week.
Yes. Oh, just a second, Mr. Netter. Before we go, I just want to tell our listeners that tonight we're broadcasting from the stage of the Paramount Theatre here in Hollywood on behalf of the 7th War-Loan Drive. The ticket of admission to the theatre was war bond. I'm mentioning this to remind you, our friends, that you have an important part to play in making the 7th War Loan a success. Buy more and buy bigger bonds than ever before. They're needed to pay for new super forts, new jet-propelled fighters, newer and bigger weapons to lick Japan. Remember, in spite of the magnificent achievements of our forces in the Pacific, the Japanese war has just begun. Let's go all out for the mighty 7th War Loan.
Tonight's Sherlock Holmes adventure is written by Dennis Green and Anthony Boucher and is based on an incident in the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle story, The Adventures of the Blanched Soldier. Mr. Rathbone appears through the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and Mr. Bruce through the courtesy of Universal Pictures, where they are now starring in the Sherlock Holmes series. The Petri Wine Company of San Francisco, California, invites you to tune in again next week, same time, same station.
Oh, the Petri family took the time to bring you such good wine. So when you eat and when you cook, remember Petri wine.
To make good food taste better, remember
Petri wine.
This is Jack Slattery saying good night for the Petri family. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. And, I had a big question here when I got to the end of this episode. I was like, why did Sherlock Holmes bring his medal from the University of Lispig? Doesn't quite get that. It's definitely clear that the script was written with the thought of the recent European War, which is pretty much about over at this point. Was written with that in mind, taking the cause, taking World War II, World War I, and kind of mixing the time frames together. The radio show, Sherlock Holmes, didn't bring Holmes into the modern age like the movies did. And so this was kind of as close as they could get to that while still remaining within the general time period of the Holmes canon, which they had always done on the show. And Basil Rathbone gets to do a little bit of Shakespeare. And Rathbone absolutely loved the stage, so to be able to do these lines had to be a treat because he was getting burned out on Sherlock Holmes. Probably would want to have spent more than 45 seconds doing something other than the normal Holmes stuff at this point. Speaking about that, we get to the email. Lori writes in regarding the commercials. Joining in on the commercial controversy, I always enjoy hearing the original commercials, particularly when the actors incorporate them into the general conversation of the radio show. I think they flavor the original shows with products of that time period. I'm specifically referring to the current Petri wine Sherlock Holmes discussion. That's a point. Flavoring with just that right little tingle of sherry. Oh wait, Petri wine's not paying me to do the show. Okay. But seriously, they did it in a way that was kind of charm and a wink-wink. When the end, Dr. Watson said, "What type of wine?" He's like, "Yes, it's time for us to pay the bills here." So there's something cute and endearing about the way they do it on this show. I always thought the Petri commercials tend to be a little higher class than some of the other ones that were done. She says that she likes the fact that I share all my feedback, but being a long-time fan of your podcast, I take exception with negative feedback about silly things like sound levels changing or your multiple uses of this word or that phrase. Adam, your podcasts have a lovely charm, and I don't think you should change a thing about the way you present or produce them. Obviously, you spend several hours a week sharing your love of old-time radio, and I personally appreciate it every time one of your podcasts comes into rotation. Thanks you, and don't change a thing. Well, thanks so much for the encouragement, Lori. And I tend to when I get legitimate critiques like several people making the point, you shouldn't spend 10 minutes at the start of a show kind of trying to divide up the feedback. There are some things I can do constructively. So I take anything I get that I think is constructive and will make the show better, and I do that. And then there's stuff that's just kind of critical, and that stuff you just kind of put it in the happy box, I guess. But really, the people who enjoy the show, really, it encourages me and helps me to be able to keep on doing it. Comment from Betty. Can't get through a workday without you and the guys. Thanks, and thanks, Betty. And, of course, by the guys, I think she means our detectives, and definitely appreciate your vote, Betty. All right, well, we've got several feedbacks here we're going to share with you in the course of this show. First, we have a comment from Lance, who commented on Johnny Madero, and he says... he said that it's nowhere near as enjoyable as Pat Novak. Webb's performance was great, but I missed Jocko's bit. And he also says, I happened to listen to Michael Shayne, and it had Webb as Inspector Lefevre. It was weird to hear Webb as the antagonistic cop who was one step behind the PI. The episode was called The Case of the Phantom Neighbor. If it wasn't Jack Webb, it was one heck of a sound-alike. It was almost certainly Jack Webb. He did at least 3 guest appearances on the New Adventures of Michael Shayne. And given there were 26 episodes, he was doing quite a few, not all in that same role. There were several roles before Joe Friday where he played police officers. Another one, there's a show called Murder and Mr. Malone, or The Amazing Mr. Malone. I forget which incarnation he was in, but he played a police lieutenant in that one. All right, well, we have a comment on Podcast Alley from Monique, who says that she just wanted to say thanks for the podcast. Just finished watching the movie The Bat on the iTunes application. It's nice to be able to watch or listen to something that I would never run across on my own. I really appreciate the time and effort you put into these shows. Thanks again. Well, thanks so much, Monique. And that's really, other than the hosting stuff, that's really my prime thing. It's just finding those things that... people haven't necessarily heard before, and be able to bring them something that will be entertaining and interesting. And there's several shows like that, because I know a lot of these are familiar, like yours truly, Johnny Dollar, but others like Johnny Madero and Jeff Regan are not quite as widely known, so we're glad to bring those to you as well. All right, we're going to get into today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. But I do want to let you know about a deal that is being offered through Priceline. We're affiliated with Priceline. Between now and the end of the month, if you go and you go to greatdetectives.net, in the right-hand side, there's a text link. And for a limited time, if you find you reserve a hotel off of Priceline. If you find a lower price for the same hotel, they'll refund 100% of the difference and give you $25 back. In addition, for customers with U.S. billing addresses, Priceline will give you a coupon for $50 off your next purchase of a 2-night or longer Priceline vacation package. So that is set up for you, and that's just another great way to save save through Priceline. So just go to greatdetectives.net, click the text link to check it out. All right, well, today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is the island of Yutan, and we'll be back.
The only reason I took this case on a savage island off the coast of New Guinea was that I'd been having a bout with a bottle of Old Fairy Godmother. and I was hoping to run into a native who would shrink my head.
This is another in the adventures of America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator, Johnny Dollar. At insurance investigation, Johnny Dollar is only an expert. At making out his expense accounts, he's an absolute genius.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Seven Seas Maritime Underwriters Association, Hartford, Connecticut. Attention, Enos McCardle, General Manager. The following is an accounting of my expenditures during my assignment on the island of Yutan. Or, south of the equator, things can get hot in more ways than one. Or, Mother, call my draft board. I'm leaving the country again. Expense account, item 1. $830.81, and 3.5 shillings. Airfare, Hartford, Connecticut, to Port Moresby, territory of Papua, island of New Guinea. That's a long trip, brother. By the time I got there, I felt that my spine could use a new seating arrangement. Expense account, item 2. $36.80. New outfit, consisting of bush jacket, linen shorts, and a pip helmet. Item 3, 2 bits. To street beggar regarding location of building in which was situated the Port Moresby branch of the Seven Seas Maritime Underwriters Association.
Oh, him long house, him blow what fella? Little way big bed, money. You catch him street wrong side, hurry. You hear Joe, big fella buckets, you fight him cry. Him long house blown from there, no?
No. Thanks a lot. I'll go look it up in a telephone book.
Oh! Yes, sir, I'm Mr. Narky, and it's lovely having you here, Mr. Dollar.
I wish I could say the same about being here.
Oh, now you'll get used to it.
I don't expect to be here that long.
Cool. You're a feisty one, aren't you? You have a very large job to do.
Mm-hmm. Let's just say I'm usually very lucky. But first, let me tell you what I've been told so far, and then if I've left out anything, you fill me in, okay?
That'll be ticky-boo, Mr. Dollar.
Your company issued a group insurance policy to the Grand East Development Corporation in the United States. Now, that company used $50,000 life insurance policies as part of the inducement to get executives and divers for their pearling fleets.
That's right.
About a month ago, they got word that the bodies of 2 of their 6-man crew on the island of Yutan had been found hacked to pieces. The other 4 men were missing, which adds up to a possible insurance payoff of $350,000. That's what I'm doing here, and that's all I know.
Well, that's all there is to know.
Oh, dandy. Has anybody done anything? What about the police?
They got their own troubles right here in the port. And as for the government officials, they'll look into it the next time around. Should be in about 90 days.
Oh, fine. That leaves you. What have you been doing to earn your money? Waiting for me?
Well, you could put it that way, Mr. Dollar.
Why haven't you gone over to Yutan?
Well, now you might say that I'm just not a man of great courage, eh? Hey, but sight, I can help you to get there.
Oh, thanks. Heaps.
Aboard the Kittiwake. Yes? What do you want?
I'm looking for Captain Steve Granger.
That's me. Come on aboard.
Captain Granger, I'm Johnny Dollar. Pleased to meet you. Mr. Narky of the Seven Seas Maritime Underwriters tells me you might be available for a charter job.
Where to?
Yutan.
Well, I guess so. Now, this is a big boat. It'll cost you big money.
Well, Narky says your prices are fair. When do we leave?
Tide'll be ready by 5. I can't be 2.
Good. I'll go get my toothbrush.
Good. And since you're going to Yutan, you might also bring one other thing. A .45.
The Kittiwake was a 2-masted schooner, and it skimmed the swell of the Arupa Sea like a saltwater bird after which it was named. I guess I'm like most guys. When I'm standing on my sea legs, I suddenly feel like a giant, standing alone against the world. Romance is no longer a sleazy blonde in a tinny bar. All of a sudden, it's all stars and sky, horizon. When the wind and the water start to sing their song to me, any bad in me decides to reform. I was standing on top of the deck house like Captain Horatio Hornblower, with my legs spread and my outstretched hands gripping a pair of backstays, or at least that's what I think they were. And just about the time I'd reached the decision to trade my Hartford apartment for a berth on a Macassar curling lugger, I heard a footstep from out of the night behind me.
Their passage, eh?
Huh? Oh, yeah, Captain. Guess you caught me dreaming.
A waste of time. This is the only place where dreaming can't possibly be as good as living. It's none of my business, but this sudden jump in Yutan tourist site, what's it all about?
What do you mean sudden?
Well, this is the first time I've ever taken one passenger there, let alone two.
Two?
Yeah, another guy came to me after you did. He's below deck.
Oh.
Now, that ought to make you happy. It'll cut your fare in half.
About that, I'll just let the guy who pays my expenses be happy. As for me, I like privacy. Who is this guy?
And look, Dollar, I didn't ask you any questions, did I? Well, I didn't ask him any.
In my racket, coincidence is just another name for trouble. I wanted to get a look at and trade some words with my suddenly acquired fellow passenger, but he wasn't having any. He stuck to his cabin, claiming seasickness. However, from the native galley boy, I learned that he was eating like a horse, which in my book was a new way of being seasick. I borrowed a copy of Western Story magazine from the skipper, crawled into my bunk, and let the kitty-wake rock me to sleep. The next morning and afternoon were as uneventful as they were beautiful. And at sunset, we raised the island of Yutan.
All right, boys. Here's where you go to work. House all sails. We'll go in under power. Hey, Tiki. Telephone. Here's the crew of the ship. We got enough help back here. Tiki, don't roll. Hey, plate that line. Don't leave it just lying in a big heap. All right, start the engine.
The big gas engine took over where the wind dropped it, and Captain Granger stood at his wheel, outfencing the submerged swords of coral with the slim prow of the kitty-wake. The ship had only inches of elbow room as we chewed our way through the boiling white passage of the reef, and my heart felt suddenly becalmed as we finally achieved the peaceful waters of the lagoon, which it protected.
Let's go to Power Ranger! Hey, never mind that anchor. All bets are off. We're getting out of here.
Captain Steve Granger looked like a hard man to scare, but what I saw up ahead on the beach would scare a hard man. The broken body of a shipwrecked curling lugger, and hanging from its foremast, the elongated body of a native who had been strangled out of one paradise and into another. Granger spun the wheel to starboard, and the kitty-wake started a retreat. But it wasn't that easy.
Touch your power, Granger. Straighten out your rudder. We're staying here.
Finally getting a chance to meet my fellow passenger. I couldn't very well shake hands with him, though, because he had a gun in each one of them.
What the devil's your game, Stevie? I said touch your power. Got it!
Keep that crew of Kanakas up forward. If you don't, we could use a few less natives around here.
Hey, brother, clock. Hey, time.
I want to know what you're telling them. You, Dollar, get back there by the wheel. Keep your boys back there, Granger, I warned you. All right, you think I won't call your bluff?
You cut. No, I'm native, you ugly pig.
You can't stop the other two, I can. Now, maybe you'll tell me what you were saying to them.
I told them there was a crazy man aboard and to go over the side. They decided to protect me.
They didn't make it. Now lay this rowboat in close to the beach and drop your hook. We're staying.
One Nat Keeley, 2 guns, and what was left of 12 bullets had me outnumbered. I decided the best thing I could do was stay quiet and stay alive. And apparently the skipper felt the same way. After we dropped anchor, Keeley herded us into the small boat, and we rowed him ashore. His guns shoved us up a path, through a grove of nipa palms, and into a clearing. First natives I saw there were even deader than the ones we had just left on the kittiwake. About a dozen of them in a semicircle. And what added up to the red-crusted craters on their naked, withering bodies was sticking out of a window in a small wooden tin-roofed hut. The water-cooled barrel of a .30 caliber machine gun. South Sea Island magic, huh?
Oh, I heard you were a wise guy. Well, that can be changed. Come on, inside, both of you.
Keeley, my friend. Why, you're shooting over the water. What's the matter? Big trouble you have getting here?
Yeah, no, Porter, little one. Big blonde guy's a skipper. We got his boat, and it's a good one. This other one, he's an insurance investigator.
Oh, yeah, Portez, I'm your new nursemaid. The insurance company sent me out here to look you up and take care of you. I hope I get around to it. My way.
Hey, Keeley, what's that you say? You got my boat.
Yeah, don't worry, big boy. We're going to pay you for it. We might even go as high as $500.
Oh, that's great. It's only worth $50,000. Oh, having 500 alive is better than 50,000 dead, my friend. What's your pitch?
It's simple. We want off this island. We got a long way to go. Cortez, me, and the native girl. She's in the next row. We may have to stay at sea for a couple of months.
Not on my ship.
Use your head, you won't get hurt. Now.
Hey, you woman. Get back in there. No, I did.
Louie, put her away. Keep her out of here. Yeah, for such an ugly broad, she sure has got a pretty name. Papa Liar. Well, Dollar, you've seen yourself a South Sea Island princess.
She's your date, Keeley, not mine.
Boy, Dollar. They do look like they were meant for each other.
Save you one for your sails, Granger. Now, what about your boat? Do we get it with a bill of sale or without one?
Either way's all right with me, if you'll take what goes.
With Cortez out of the room with Nature Girl, Granger's move looked like a good one. I was halfway across the room to make it 2 against 1 for the right side when the odds snapped back to even money again. Cortez came rushing back to join the fray, and he started fighting when he was 5 yards away. Just about then, Nature Girl came charging out of her quarters, swinging a chair over her head. I'd just gotten in position to shoot a right hand at Keeley's chin, when another shot from Cortez's gun put me strictly on my own. He caught Granger square in the forehead, and he went down without a sound. I had time for one more try. Keeley's chin telegraphed a knockout message. Da-da-da, da-da-da, K.O., banked up my arm. But something was wrong. Oh! I passed out.
In just a moment, we'll return to the second act of Johnny Dollar. But first, 50,000 or more, always in the jackpot on Sing It Again. Music by Gene Autry and Vaughn Monroe. Music and thrills with Gangbusters, Philip Marlowe, Johnny Dollar, and Danny Clover, the Broadway cop. That's the one-way ticket to top fun on most of these CBS stations every Saturday night. This fall, when you hear them all on CBS, Saturday nights promise top music, top adventure, and a chance at radio's top prize. Now, with our star, Charles Russell, we return to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
It was a beautiful dream while it lasted. It wasn't night, it was morning. I was in a hammock slung between two banyan trees, framed in hibiscus bushes. Someone was bathing my face with a cool, damp, gardenia-scented cloth. A tame parrot was feeding me toasted pumpkin seeds. As a smooth-skinned, soft-skinned, cafe au lait-skinned, half-caste, and all-woman type girl gazed into my eyes and cooed softly in my ear. This doll would make Dorothy Lamour look like an Irish washerwoman, and the boots she was wearing her shorts around.
Oh, poor man. Please to wake up.
Hey, it wasn't a dream. It was really happening. Everything was there. All but the parrot and his lousy pumpkin seeds. And who needed him?
Oh, poor man. Please to wake up.
Oh, where am I? Studio One? Huh? Who are you? I thought you were talking in my sleep.
I am Punta.
Oh, this is awful.
Awful?
Yeah, this all reminds me. My copy of Tales of the South Pacific is 17 days overdue at the Hartford Public Library.
How?
Forget it. Where am I? What am I doing here? And who are you?
I am Punta. You were brought here by the Princess Papalaya from the village of Great Bear.
Oh, well, that place isn't hard to remember. Wish I could forget it. The princess. The one with the droopy ears, the long feet, the flat nose, the pot belly, the bad complexion, and dirty hair?
Yes, is it?
She's a doll. Last time I saw her, she was swinging a chair at my head.
Oh, no. She hit other fella on head after he hit you. She saved you. She like you. She tell me save you for her.
Oh, what a way to die. Why didn't she hit me over the head with a chair? Hey, you speak pretty fair English. Where'd you pick it up?
My father was Chinese merchant on island of New Guinea. Same time as the war. You like GI?
I certainly do. Sorry I didn't bring a Hershey bar. But tell me, why did the Princess Papaya, whatever her name is, why did she save me?
I tell you. She like you.
Oh, stop saying that. But all I want to know is, what was she doing with Keeley and Cortez? You know Keeley and Cortez, don't you?
Yes, I know them. They bad. I work in village until they make the great death. They kill all their friends and many natives. They bad.
Oh, now we're getting somewhere. What was that all about?
They die for pearl here for a long time. The native boy, they do not like these men. They do not die anymore. So these bad men steal all pearls first. Then they steal princess to make boy die some more.
Oh, kidnap, ransom, more pearls?
What is this? Ransom?
Oh, that means they'll hold the princess and won't give her back until they get what they want.
Oh.
But, Dream Girl, for me, a scheme like that wouldn't work with a gal like you. No, just holding you would be getting what I want. Only one thing wrong. My knees were getting a little knobby, thanks to a combination of insects and my new white linen shorts. However, Punta was good nerve medicine. The rest of the story came out later, and in her soft voice, it was a bloody kind of lullaby. She crooned me to sleep with the facts that the natives had tried to rescue their princess from Keeley and Cortez, which gave me an answer for that semicircle of machine gun bodies outside their shack. Also that the princess had taken temporary refuge up in the hills. As nearly as I could figure out, I was left facing a very peculiar problem. 2 men out of 6 insured men had killed the other 4, and the 2 murderous survivors had this much going for them. To the insurance company, they were still worth $50,000 apiece on the hook, which meant that my job was to keep alive 2 guys I felt very much like killing. And believe me, they felt the same about me. And with these beautiful, happy, restful thoughts, I left the call for darkness and went back to sleep. And who do you think I wound up with in my dreams? That hulky old parrot and his lousy pumpkin seed.
Johnny, time to get up.
Oh?
Hurry from your sleep, Johnny. There is more trouble.
Hey, somebody's getting straight. What's going on?
They are killing again with their machine gun. My people trying to fight them off the island, but they are being killed. Now you must go and lead my people. Help them kill those bad men.
This you won't understand, gorgeous, but my job is to stop your people and save Keely and Cortez.
Johnny, you say that now? You are one of them.
No, I'm not one of them. I told you wouldn't understand. There's something I don't understand. Why don't they leave? They've got what they want. Why don't they pick up their pearls and the schooner and the rotten hides and get out of here?
Johnny, they do not have the pearls. Here, see? This one is for you.
Black. Wow. You say for me? Where'd it come from?
The princess, she come back some time ago. She tell me she took all their pearls. She tell me to tell you that this black pearl, not company pearl, this her own for you. She like you.
Well, I like her, too. Just the way she is, up in the hills. Right now, I wish you looked like her.
Oh, Johnny, you don't like the way I look like I am?
I love the way you look like you are.
Why you say that?
Because if you did look like her, I think I'd have an idea that would stop those men. Yeah. Turn around.
Yes, Johnny.
Oh, this will be the crime of the year, but maybe I can do it. And I did. I gave Punta a thorough loss of beauty treatment. With the help of padding, dye, mud, and other jungle cosmetics, I had, at the end of an hour, a reasonable facsimile of Papalaya, the unprettiest princess in the history of royalty. I briefed the suddenly uglified Punta on what she was to do and had her lead me most of the way back to the fortress shack and the clearing. She put a few words on the jungle grapevine, and by the time they reached the end, the native side of the battle, the home team, ceased activities.
Hey, Keely! Cortez! Time! Cut! Hold it! There's nobody here to shoot at but me, and I want to talk.
Stay where you are, Dollar. Don't move. We'll shoot at anything we hear moving. Brother, we're getting so we can play this thing by ear. Yeah? Close enough? See what we mean? Now, what do you want?
The princess has the pearls, and I've got the princess. I want to make a trade.
What kind of trade?
You'll get the princess and the pearls. We get rid of you. All this killing stops, and you're alive.
We're supposed to believe you got the princess?
You don't have to, but here's something you can believe. You'll never get it this way. Sooner or later, you're going to run out of ammunition or food or water or everything at once.
We still don't know you got the princess. And we ain't buying that pig in any fool. We want to see her.
You'll see her when you're out of that shack and on the boat.
We ain't moving out of here in the dark.
Nobody's asking you to. Take me until dawn to get the princess down out of the hills.
Okay. Supposing we decide to do business. How do we know we don't get swamped by those natives between here and the boat?
I'll take care of that. You can depend on it. Remember, my job is to keep you two guys alive and save the company I'm working for $100,000.
All right, we'll give you a chance. We'll be on the boat at dawn watching the shoreline, and this machine gun will be at the rail watching the shoreline with it. You send out the princess. Oh!
You got a deal. And that ain't all you're going to get. I hope. I hit the beach 2 hours before dawn, with Punta ready to paddle me out to the kittiwake in a native canoe. I wanted to be there with all weapons handy when Keely and Cortez stuck their heads up over the rail. But it seems they had thought of that, too. When we hit the sand, there they were, in the small boat, halfway out to the mooring.
Oh, Johnny, there they are. They spoil everything.
Stay out of sight, Punta. Yeah, they spoil everything, but not for long. Well, one thing for sure, I can't use the canoe. Tell me something. Are there sharks in this lagoon?
Oh, no, not many.
Well, I hope traffic is light tonight. I've got a chance. Okay, Punta, you better stay here. I'm going a few hundred yards up the beach and swim for it.
Oh, Johnny, be careful.
Oh, baby doll, you sound so pretty, and you look so ugly. The water was warmer, and the pool at the Hartford Y. Certainly not as much fun. I spent most of the trip trying to keep from splashing. and watching for shark critters around me. That was good in a way. Helped me forget that I don't swim very well. 45 minutes later, I was still half alive, looking for a handhold on the slimy waterline of the kittiwake on the seaward side. And there I stayed for the next hour and a quarter, listening to Keeley and Cortez on the other side of the boat, nursing their machine gun and waiting like I was for the dawn.
Okay, Cortez, clear your gun. Canoe's pushing up on the shoreline.
I say that. Put the glasses on it. We don't cause no mistake. We're going to finish it.
Yeah, wait till I get her in focus. They'll tell me. These glasses will bring in every old line in their fat, ugly face.
Those glasses brought something else, if they were that good. A hop on my heart, a lump in my throat. I had to move faster than I figured to. I had to get into action while their attention was all on the approaching canoe, and before they discovered that its passenger was not the princess, but her stand-in, Punta. I grabbed the gunwale, then the rail, cursing every drift that splashed back into the water off my body. I went slipping and sliding and rushing across the deck. Keeley was leaning forward, looking through the glasses, his thighs against the rail, so I hit him first, sent him flying over the side. With or without a machine gun, Louis was a tough guy.
Here's one for the road. Jump.
I turned around to see what had to be done to take care of Keeley and saw that it was already being taken care of. By a canoe paddle in the hands of an irate dame.
Punta! Don't kill him! I want him alive! Punta, stop! No. I kill enemy of man I love!
What? Who? Oh, no! Princess Papalaya had pulled a rank on Punta and demanded that she be the one to come out to the ship in the canoe. Because, as she kept telling me on the voyage back to New Guinea, she liked me. Oh, well, she may have been awful ugly, but she was also an awful good sailor. And knowing the way to a sailor's heart, I bought her a present. Expense account, item 4, $10. Tattooing job on the Princess Papalaya's fat right shoulder. A picture of a ship under full sail. So now when she laughs, it goes bounding over the waves. Expense account, item 5, $40. Long-winded cable to 7 Seas Maritime underwriters, that's you, gentlemen, recommending immediate cancellation of policies covering the lives of Keeley and Cortez, who were in the hands of the New Guinea officials and looking forward to a short life and an unmerry one. Item 6, $831.81, 3.5 shillings. Airfare, Port Moresby to Hartford. Item 7, 48 cents. Past due charges at 2 cents per day. Hartford Public Library, on my copy of Tales of the South Pacific. Incidentally, I never did get around to reading. After all, it'd be an utter waste of time for a man who has known a gal like Punta. Expense account total $3,286.44. Signed, yours, truly, Johnny Dollar. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Gordon T. Hughes and stars Charles Russell. Script by Paul Dudley and Gil Dowd. Featured in the cast were Mary Schiff, B.J. Thompson, Tom Holland, Clark Gordon, Willard Waterman, and Larry Dobkin. The special music is written and conducted by Leith Stevens. Your announcer is Paul Masterson. Be sure to be with us at the same time next week when another unusual expense account is handed in by yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Who's got the nation's most popular band? Vaughn Monroe. And who's the nation's most popular singing band leader? Vaughn Monroe again. Now, who brings you a caravan of the nation's most popular tunes every Saturday night over most of these same CBS stations? You guessed it, it's Vaughn Monroe. That's why everyone listens on Saturday nights to the Vaughn Monroe Show on CBS, where this fall you hear them all. Stay tuned now for Vaughn Monroe and his caravan, who follow immediately on most of these stations.
This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. The big thing I notice on this one is that in this incarnation, given the limited number of episodes we have with Charles Russell as Johnny Dollar, he spent a lot of them on boats. There was the fishing boat episode a few weeks ago. There was one episode that we did not get to hear, how I turned a luxury liner into a battleship. So they were thinking about water. I guess some of the well, I won't say that. Anyway, we have another email. Wesley emails from off the app. Thank you for answering my question. He asked one before. Is there a way to get scripts from your podcast? Some shows have such great quotes you just want to use today. I'm sure you're referring to the particular episodes. If you're referring to Pat Novak, there's a link, and I'll add it to the Pat Novak page. And if you go to greatdetectives.net, go under the home page, and then go under About, then go to the archives. You'll see the Pat Novak page, and there you can actually go ahead and go to this quote page for Pat Novak. In terms of the general episodes, really most episodes don't have a script. They're really, as far as I'm aware, the two that have a script were those episodes of Pat Novak. So, all right, and we have a comment from Jesse. Said, I just wanted you to know that I'm listening to both your Dragnet podcast and your Great Detective podcast, and I love them both. I'm sad at the loss of Pat Novak. It was a great show, and although it took a little time to get used to his hard-boiledness, I liked everything about it once I got used to it. I've given you some suggestions for replacement shows in the past, but I want to just name a few more. Boston Blackie, definitely. Adventure of Sam Spade, probably. Phil Morrow, absolutely. Casebook of Gregory Hood, yep. Bulldog Drummond, I'm going to have to listen to a few more of those. Don't quite know yet about him. Pete Kelly's Blues, yeah. A Rocky Jordan, haven't really listened to it. I've got that on my list. Harry Lime, probably not. I don't generally consider Harry Lime a detective story. Plus, it's kind of hard. It's kind of the same concern I had going into Sam Spade. You have somebody who's too anti-hero-ish, and it can be hard to root for them or to fully enjoy their adventure. And I'm discovering with Sam Spade that on the radio, I think they made him compelling enough and interesting enough, and not too creepy that I think it sounds like it's something we can do. But Harry Lime, Radio McDanger has his comments on the on Harry Lime. He's got synopsises of most episodes. Harry schemes to double-cross a partner and steal an emerald for himself. Harry is once again the charmingly amoral con man, causing the death of one and the exile of two in the service of his greed. And if only everyone were as honest as Harry Lime, we'd all be shafting each other. Proof that a man convicted of murder was innocent. What else to do but sell it, at least if you're Harry Lime. Harry gleefully fleeces friend and foe alike with a fine art swindle. So I got to admit, I got some hesitation. I should at least give the show a listen to determine its detectiveness, but I don't know. those kind of descriptions, maybe it's just a little prejudicial. Paul comments on Facebook, I love the podcast. I've already listened to all the episodes and have a hard time waiting for the next one to come out. I'll give you AAA+. Well, thank you so much, Paul. Much appreciated. All right, well, we're going to wrap it up for this week. We'll be back on Monday with an episode of Box 13. Got any comments? Send them to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. And a reminder that you can call and leave a voicemail for the show. Call 208-991-4783. That's 208-991-GREAT-D. But from Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.